back to order, and I'd like a motion to recess to go into public hearing. Tom's moved. All in favor? Carried. And with that, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2017-16. Has proper notifications been done?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have.
Okay, does anybody in the public have any concerns of any councillor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue.
Thank you. So this is a RFD for a redesignation application, bylaw 2017-16, to redesignate 37.67 acres from agricultural general to a direct control district. This is to accommodate an existing truck and mechanical repair business with future plans for a mechanical repair station. This is on plan 111-0071, block 1, lot 2. So the recommendation to council is that option number 1 for approval of bylaw 2017-16 for the following reasons. The application meets the requirements of the SSRP and the RGMS. The proposed redesignation generally aligns with the policies and objectives of the MDP. The proposed existing uses and location of the parcel provide rationale for redesignation to a direct control district. And the proposed redesignation aligns with the purpose, intent, rules, and regulations of the land use bylaw. Option 1 has 2 motions. Motion 1, that bylaw 2017-16 be given second reading, and motion number 2, that bylaw 2017-16 be given third and final reading. Okay. So file number is LU 2017-21 with bylaw 2017-16. Owner is Andrew McCormick and the applicant is Andrew McCormick. The existing land use is agricultural general and proposed land use district is direct control. The location is adjacent to Range Road 221 and approximately 11.6 kilometers south of Standard. Background information for this application. The existing 37.67 acre parcel has gone through several zoning and subdivision changes over the years in accordance with previous applications brought to council. At this time, the parcel is zoned agricultural general and is proposed to redesignate to direct control district to accommodate an existing trucking business on the parcel and allow for a mechanical inspection station. The parcel currently has 1 large shop built in 2005, but no permit was required due to the provisions within the existing land use bylaw at the time. At the time of submission for a permit, the applicant stated the shop was for cold storage. It is now used as part of a truck repair and mechanical shop and will require appropriate development permit at the time. In 2006, a redesignation application was submitted to convert 32 acres from ag general to industrial commercial. However, council at the time only approved 10 acres for redesignation to this industrial commercial zoning. In 2010, another application was submitted for the land to consolidate the previously redesignated and subdivided 10-acre industrial commercial parcel with the remnant 32-acre agricultural parcel, bringing it to 42 acres as agricultural small holdings as a condition of approval. The parcel is currently zoned agricultural general with the new land use bylaw approved in May of 2017. However, the existing uses do not conform to the uses within the agricultural general district. A letter was sent to the landowner in October 2016 to notify them of the potential to be rezoned to direct control due to the existing uses on the parcel and their non-compliance with the proposed land use bylaw. The application is to redesignate the 37.67 acres to direct control to accommodate the uses on the land. If redesignation is approved, appropriate development permits would be required to accommodate the existing uses on the parcel and bring it into compliance. The MDP and RGMS have rules, regulations, and policies to guide industrial and commercial development in the county. These documents have identified specific areas more suitable for these uses in order to avoid land use conflicts. The proposed parcel is not located with any of these identified corridors, and it does not meet the established development requirements for an industrial use. As a result, the planning department sees the parcel being redesignated to DC as a way to bring it back into compliance and provide direction for future development on the parcel and quarter while maintaining its existing uses. Direct Control District is meant to provide council with the ability to direct the uses currently on the parcel and to accommodate future uses through the established regulations within the district. Through this zoning, growth and development can be directed through council, ensuring it does not fall outside of the uses and parameters set out in its proposed direct control district. Any changes to the DC must be done through an amendment by the applicant and presented to council. So for this application, a policy analysis was done looking at several of the plans attributed to the county. One of these is the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. The SSRP states that municipalities should establish land use patterns that provide an appropriate mix of uses developed in an orderly, efficient, compatible, safe, and economic manner, contributes to a healthy environment, a healthy economy, and high quality of life, minimizes potential conflict of land uses adjacent to natural resources, extraction, manufacturing, and other industrial developments, and provides a wide range of economic development opportunities. The parcel as it stands developed without following county guidelines and regulations for industrial development, and therefore does not meet these relevant strategies for land use management. Bringing the parcel into a DC district will, however, attempt to mitigate future land use issues and bring it into compliance with the county's land use policies, meeting some of the strategies for the SSRP for land use planning. Future planning of the site would need to comply with the county statutory documents to ensure proper land use planning strategies are followed and efficient use of the land with consideration for the existing and adjacent uses. Through the RGMS, Section 3.2.4 identifies applicable policies for the RGMS to consider. The relevant policies include generally direct industrial and commercial development to designated areas, provide a method whereby industrial and commercial development may be incorporated into the county, encourage new development in or within close proximity to existing urban communities, and encourage developments to locate in relation to servicing needs. The parcel and the business do not meet these policies. It is located away from the municipal servicing and urban areas and is not within a designated industrial or commercial corridor. By redesignating the parcel to direct control district, the planning department and council can address some of the issues and provide guidance to the existing uses on the parcel. This will ensure future development meets the general regulations of the county and does not impose on the existing uses on the parcel and neighboring lands. Although the business does not meet the relevant policies of RGMS, the county and planning department wants to ensure that pre-existing businesses are able to function in the county and continue to provide economic development to the area. Through the rezoning and appropriate development permits that can be applied for, they will help bring the business back into relative compliance with county standards and policy framework. In addition to the general policies for growth in the county through the RGMS, economic development goals and policies are also relevant. The business and uses on the parcel at this time do not meet the economic development goals and policies. However, as previously mentioned, the establishment of the DC district will help meet these. Through the MDP, the existing business does not follow the policies of the MDP for commercial and industrial development. It is not in a designated area for industrial commercial use. It is within close proximity of residential development and does not make use of existing municipal servicing. The MDP and RGMS identify several areas in the county ideal for industrial and commercial development on the West Highway, especially for the West Highway 1 area structure plan, secondary area west of Carseland, and certain hamlet future land use maps. These areas are best suited for industrial growth and development due to their proximity to major highway corridors, municipal servicing, and distance from major residential developments. However, because of the business's longstanding existence on the parcel, staff have concluded redesignating the parcel to DC is the best option. This redesignation will allow council to direct growth and development on the parcel, keeping it reasonably within the policies and objectives of the NDP. At this time, the direct control district is divided into two cells. I'm going to scroll down so you guys can see what it looks like and understand what I refer to for the cells of the direct control. So as you can see, cell 1 here in this case is labeled and meant for residential development, and cell 2 in blue, shows up pretty well on the picture there, is meant for the industrial uses that are currently existing on the parcel. So this is intended to separate existing uses and to ensure that future growth and development is restricted to specific areas of the district to avoid land use conflicts. This partially meets the policy in section 3.7 relating to commercial and industrial growth. Since the industrial uses are pre-existing, the county is unable to further regulate existing residential development on this parcel, but it is within the county's best interest to ensure existing uses are buffered and protected appropriately to minimize future encroachment and issues. This DC will assist in future planning of developing this area, and through the creation of the two cells in the DC district, the areas can be developed accordingly within their existing footprints. The development permit stage of the application, if approval is granted by council for this application, fencing will be conditioned for outdoor storage on the site to ensure further visual and physical separation and buffering between the proposed development cells and neighboring parcels. Through the land use bylaw, a direct control district is intended to accommodate the existing uses on a parcel that do not fit within an already established district in the land use bylaw. Because of the number of uses on the parcel and the existing non-compliance, the DC is intended to allow for council to direct this growth and development on the site. The regulations and uses listed within the proposed district will bring the parcel back into relative compliance with the land use bylaw. As the parcel stands currently, the existing structures meet the setbacks from the road right-of-way and side and rear yard setbacks as laid out in the proposed district. There are several uses and structures on the parcel that do not have permits. These will need to be applied for if council grants approval for the proposed redesignation. So I'm going to scroll up to the site so you can actually take a look and see what it looks like. So the area in green is the parcel in question, the 37.67 acres. And down here is a site plan, just showing the different uses that are currently on the site. As you can see, there are several fuel storage areas within the property. The main shop is here, which was originally, defined as a cold storage. Then you have storage containers or secans. You have an office which is attached, and it does have a permit for this, a dugout, and the dwelling here. So through circulation, it was done to external agencies listed on the certificate of title. Alberta Health Services had their 4 standard comments, with an addition, if there's evidence of contamination, a public health nuisance, or any other issues, they would like to be notified. ATCO Gas had no concerns. ATCO Pipelines had no concerns. TELUS had no objection, and they also stated it is the landowner's responsibility to ensure they contact Alberta one call to ensure no facilities will be disrupted. If at any time TELUS facilities are disrupted, it will be the sole cost of the landowner. Western Irrigation District had no concerns. Through internal file review, Agricultural Services had no concerns, and McElhaney Consulting had a comment stating, as this is a truck maintenance and storage facility, there is potential for contaminated materials to be discharged overland during rain events. The applicant should provide a stormwater management report and overland drainage plan showing how any potential site runoff will be discharged and ensuring that any chemicals are not discharged to the existing dugout or off-site. Staff made a note saying that we have acknowledged the comments and will address further studies at development permit stage if necessary. Circulation to landowners was done within 1 mile of the subject lands, and there were no letters received in either support or objection to this report. So at this time, council has 2 options. Option 1 is to give second and third final reading. Option 2 is that bylaw 2017-16 is refused with a motion to rescind bylaw 2017-16. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions or concerns? Jason?
Are we able to hear from the applicant?
Yes?
Is he here?
Yeah. And I'll ask questions first. Any questions? Any comments from the applicant? Any comments or concerns from the public? Jason?
I do have a question. So as I can see from the pictures, the majority of the land is not, it's not industrial right now. So I don't understand why are we penalizing the certain applicant with redesignating, rezoning his whole piece of land when he's only using a portion of it for the certain industrial use?
Through the chair, so the intent of the direct control district is to accommodate the existing uses on the parcel. At this time, residence is located on it, which doesn't fit with an industrial district within our current land use bylaw. To subdivide it out would not, it wouldn't be a good planning practice for that parcel in particular. It would split it up and we'd have some access issues, as there are 2 current ones, and then trying to establish an access point for the residents afterwards. As well, the intent of the applicant was not to subdivide, it was to rezone to bring it back into compliance.
Does that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? Sure.
we go. Through the chair, I wanted to note as well, taxes aren't impacted by rezoning. How taxes are calculated typically is on what's happening on the site. So he's not going to see a tax increase as a result of the rezoning to direct control district.
Okay. Please come up to the mic, state your name.
Hi, I'm Andy McCormick. I own the parcel, and my taxes have already gone up. Once I applied for this, my taxes went up.
Okay,
And it's still zoned agricultural.
yeah. Taxes are follow the use of the land.
Right.
Not the
I
zoning.
understand that, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, no.
Go ahead, Jason.
Would we not be able to leave it as is? Because right now, there's two areas, is there not? It's residential zoned and a industrial zone.
Through the chair, so the direct control district map was just showing what's proposed for the direct control district. It is currently entirely zoned agricultural general.
Okay, understand? Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Any comments from the public? Any questions? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2017-16. And we're now back in council. Council's wishes. You have really two options. You can ask for second reading and vote on it, or we could refuse it too and vote on it for sure.
I move we have a second reading.
Okay. Jason's moved second reading. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried.
I'll move third reading.
Ben's moved third reading. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thank you for coming in. Thank you. Okay. Now I think we have a development permit for Control District DC 7. 3.3.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm trying to click it here.
Okay.
Okay. So this is development permit application DP 2017-147. It's on 31 Couts Close in the Lake Summerfield development. The recommendations that council choose option 1, approval of the development permit as it's issued for a new residence with no variances being granted, and the development would have to proceed according to the DC 7 district requirements, and that no permanent development shall occur on or over the utility right-of-way or easement. In our standard 3 notes here for the Lake Summerfield, we'd like to remove note number 2 in the second half, that the builder shall install an indoor sprinkler system. Couts Close is the more kind of larger lot estate area of Murfield where there's larger setbacks between houses. They're about 10 feet compared to 5 feet for the other lots in the development. So as per the fire code and the safety codes, there's no need for sprinklering in that home. So we're recommending that if council chooses to approve this development permit, that the comment builder shall install an indoor sprinkler system to Alberta Safety Code regulation be removed. It's proposed a single family dwelling that's 1,684 square feet and 28.7 feet in height. And I'll just go down to the report here quickly. It's located within Cell 3, which is residential type 3 of the direct control district. As it's a DC for the Lake Summerfield, as per council direction, council is responsible for the issuance of all development permits for discretionary uses listed within each development cell. This was circulated, Public Works commented no issues other than that the applicant's aware there's issues with the cost and operation of the sanitary sewage disposal system. It was circulated to all neighbors with no responses received. Just go to the map here, you'll see it's this corner lot up in Couts Close of the development. This is the lot plan. You'll see the house is down here with a future garage in the corner. The site photo. And that's a drawing of the proposed dwelling. And I'm just going to go back up to the recommendation, and that'll conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Well, is there any progress on the waste water facility? We know.
Does anyone have an answer to that? Colton or Angie?
Due to the chair, I can't comment. I have no knowledge of that myself.
Okay, Angie.
Are we able, as a council, to move this request for decision later on in the meeting until we hear from Jimmy Souza?
This way. Any other questions? Okay, Jimmy, please. Yeah.
I can see you've rearranged the furniture a little bit since the last time I was in here. My name is Jimmy Souza, and I'm the project manager for the Lakes of Muirfield, and yet you've kept the same rocking chair in the corner. I like that. And comfortable rocking chair. I am scheduled, I'm on the agenda for 2:30, okay? We're going to talk about a lot of things at that point. I don't necessarily make it a point to come to council meetings where you're voting on a development permit application, but I wanted to come for this specific one for two reasons. First and foremost, it's different and unique than any others that you guys have heard in here. And secondly, Amy and Adam hold a special place in my heart, and I mean that sincerely. The reason this one is different is Amy and Adam live at Muirfield right now. They've lived there for 7 years, okay? Amy and Adam have been there since before the wastewater issue, during the wastewater issue, and will be there long after the wastewater issue. They've raised 2 children in the Lakes of Muirfield. This application is for their dream home, okay? They're going into this with their eyes wide open. They know everything that's going on more than even myself, because I don't pay wastewater bills from the Lakes of Muirfield. What I'm asking council right now is to say, do the right thing. My goodness, you're going to deprive this woman and her husband. The only thing that you'll do by not approving this application, the only people that get hurt, and there's 4 of them, is Amy, Adam, Chloe, and Zachary, her family. I'm asking you guys, in this particular instance, we're going to talk, I'm going to talk for half an hour at 2:30, but in this particular instance, even Glenn, Ben, do the right thing here. This is a woman who wants to build her dream home. Please don't stop her from doing that. You're only hurting her. Look at that smile. You're going to hurt that woman. Thank you guys very much. And I will be back at 2:30. I promise you that.
Sorry, but
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I mean, as much as I do feel for that, I don't believe in using residents as props to make decisions. I'd rather you answer the question, is there wastewater?
Young man,
there or
if you
not?
think I'm using her as a prop right now, you don't know who I am as a human being, and I take offense to that comment.
Well, I mean-
This isn't a prop. This is her life we're talking about here,
Okay,
Jason.
let's keep the comments directed to the chair. Okay?
Yeah, on
Through
on both sides.
Through the chair,
Okay.
can we please have an answer to wastewater?
You'll get one at 2:30.
Then
There will be an answer. And that's why I'm here. I came an hour and a half early to make a presentation on behalf of my friend.
through the chair, I move that we put the request for decision until after the Homesteads of Lyelta subdivision.
Sure can.
Hi, sorry, I'm not sure how this works, so
Okay.
bear with me. I'm Amy Vetter, and my application is for 31 Couts Close. I knew Jimmy before I bought at the Lakes of Muirfield. And do I know everything that's going on there? I know a lot. Sometimes I think I know too much. Is it going to matter what comes of the wastewater issue? No. I've spent 7 years in that community, and I want to continue to lay roots in Wheatland County with my children. A little background knowledge for you if you don't already know. The lot that I purchased with my husband was not bought through Jimmy's company. It was bought from one of the 14 people who actually purchased lots outside of the development. Part of the development, but not part of the company that Jimmy works for. So the red tape that we've had to go through to build my dream home, it's not my dream home, but it'll work for me. It's kind of frustrating. I hope that you'll understand that regardless of what it's going to cost for my crap to get somewhere else than the Lakes of Muirfield is not going to matter. I want to build my home there. I want my kids to grow up in Lyalta. It's an amazing community. So regardless of the outcome of Jimmy's presentation, please let us build our dream home there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Question to the chair, can we do what Jason's requesting?
I'm thinking we can. Just takes a motion. Ben?
My question is just for clarification. This land that you're talking about is not part of Muirfield, or it's part of Muirfield?
Yes, please.
So from my understanding, I didn't purchase my lot from, I'm not sure of the company, the legal name of the company that Jimmy works for. I purchased my lot from a private owner who purchased the lot. There was, I believe, 14 individuals who purchased lots.
Okay, it's in.
So it is in the Lakes of Muirfield,
It's
but I
in-
did not purchase my lot from the developer.
No, I'm not worried about that. It's in Zone 3. It's not outside in that little corner. It's in
No.
Zone 3.
Yeah.
Cell 3,
Cell
Zone 3, whatever you want to call it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Because I'm like Jason, and I don't, and Jimmy, you know me as well as I know you, and I don't like holding anybody hostage for anything, but we've danced around this, and we've danced around this, and we've danced around this, and council has allowed growth in cells 1 and 4, I think, and they basically said, yeah, we'll allow growth in there until we get, because that has been, council moved to go along with that. The rest of it, we were not going to allow any growth in there until we had a firm answer to what was going on with the wastewater. And I know you've got a contract with Strathmore for another year. 1 year with a condition. Without guaranteed.
Okay. Keep comments
Yeah.
at the podium, please,
Yeah.
Ben. Okay, thanks.
Anyways, you've got a temporary, to me, it's temporary. If it's 2 years or 3 years, it's still temporary because you don't have a permanent solution. And we were told over a year ago that you would have a permanent solution in 2 or 3 months, and we're still not seeing anything permanent.
Okay.
And what tweaked me was the letter from a comment that you made at the community meeting here a couple of weeks ago at Muirfield. And in there it said, I'm just trying to remember what it said. I don't have the letter in front of me, but it said, if we don't have something permanent by this meeting, you would, I can't remember what it said, but anyways, there wasn't anything permanent about it.
I'm
So-
thinking the motion is to defer it, so I'd like to limit we're actually talking about the actual development now. So if there's
Okay.
any reason why we don't want to defer
Okay.
it, it'll still be dealt with today.
Okay.
No any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's carried, so it'll be dealt with later on today. Okay. Okay, Jimmy will be here, I'm sure. Okay, okay, thanks. Okay. I'll move on to, we have an appointment at 2 is our next appointment. So we'll go back up to new business 2.2A. Page 10. Everyone got it? Any questions? Council's wishes?
I move that we approve the appointment of both the Director and Deputy Director of Emergency Management.
Okay, any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, employee policy, section 6.4.2. Any questions? Looks like just one line, B, is changed. Council's wishes. Scott?
I'll move that we accept option 1, proceed with approval of a request, 6.4.2 employee policy.
Okay, any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, proposed new policy, adverse weather conditions or declared state of emergency.
I move that Council adopt the adverse weather conditions or declared state of emergency policy as presented.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. I'm going to ask you vote a little bit longer so I can scan both sides. Okay. Request for decision, Economic Development Board initiative, behind the scenes speaker series.
I just think
Jason?
10,000 is a little steep here. 10,000 is a little steep ask, in my opinion. I mean, I'd rather see that money go to somewhere where I can see it make a difference, a guaranteed outcome, rather than you don't know how many you don't know how many people are coming to the speakers. You don't know what that whole aspect of the event is.
Okay. Amber?
I see this as part of our economic development strategic plan, and I think that initiatives like this are important, even if they're not really necessarily tangible benefits initially. So I support this.
Go ahead, Donna.
Yes, I talked to Marcy after the presentation, and this is like a first step of her getting more funding through grants. So they need the 10,000 to carry on, to keep on going, and then they're on a time restraint, and that's what she had told me, that in order to go forward at all, she needed the 10,000 first. I also think that, I mean, they were just proposals of where they might be held. That could be relooked at, like where they had the meetings at. If they felt that that wasn't going to be a good draw, we could revisit that.
Okay, any other comments or motion? Tom?
I have a real problem with, we have no idea what the outcome's gonna be. This is $10,000. This is like 3 people like me paying for the entire year, their entire taxes on this. And I just, in good conscience, cannot support this. There's gotta be another way that if we could, you know, I'd look at backing a loan, but this, just throwing money into the pit, I can't do it.
Okay. Before we carry on, I'd like to have a motion. Then we can vote on it and talk to it better.
I move that council support the previous resolution of council 17-10-42 at the October 10th regular council meeting to provide funding in the amount of $10,000 in support of the Wheatland County Economic Development Board initiative, 3-part speaker series, and included in our 2018 budget.
Okay. Now, any other questions or concerns? Ben?
I had a problem with it at the start. I'm still having a bit of a problem with it. I'm not totally against it, but I'm thinking it could be tuned down to a lesser for the first go at it. But I'm going to ask a question. How many of council is going to attend this?
Just in response to that, I don't think the critical question is how many of us will support it. I don't think it's targeted at, like a governance board, it's targeted at our entrepreneurs and our business people in our county and surrounding regions. I think it's important for that, so I don't think that's a pertinent question, although I may attend it.
And that's where we differ. To me, if we're going to put that kind of money into 3 speakers, I think personally, I'd feel amiss if I didn't go and see if it was worth what I put into it. To not go and then have somebody ask me about it, I would have no, I haven't talked to anybody out there that's interested in going. I know I've talked to some that wanted to know what it was about, and I've told them. They didn't sound like they were that interested in going, so I'm something like what Tom's saying. I'm not sure if we're going to get what we want out of it. I don't know if it's good money for what we're looking for. I don't know. I'm still up.
Go ahead, Donna.
Coming from an entrepreneurial business, we listened to a lot of speakers when we were starting out, and they did help us grow our business. A lot of people, like you can go to conferences and get some results, but I think it's very a positive thing from the county for small businesses to attend these kind of meetings. And I don't know how much speakers cost. We didn't ever have to pay for one. We just went to them. But I'm sure they've checked it out. And I did listen to one of those speakers, and he was very helpful.
Through the chair, I want to make it clear that I think as a county, you have to be pro-business and incentivize your entrepreneurs, but we need to see something out of it. Like, as Ben said, do we need the full 10 grand? Can we limit that a little? I'd be much more comfortable with a smaller amount. I do, and then you're still being part of incentivizing the entrepreneurship.
Any other question, Donna?
I'm not sure, but I think that that amount is a matching grant, so that's why it's that amount. They were getting other grants through that amount, so I don't know if it can be changed.
Any other questions? If you go to page 31, there's a little spreadsheet there. Actually, the speakers looks like are 12,000 a pop. And the total budget, expenses total, I don't know what the total is unless another page, no. Looks like the total's around 36 and 8 and 9 and 53 is what they're hoping to raise. Total revenue 71,000, and they're going to have a surplus of 18, so it looks like about 60, 50 some $1,000 is for their total package. So they're asking us for 10, they're hoping to raise roughly 40,000. Does that make sense? So the 10 isn't for a speaker, it's to help fund the whole package, if that makes sense. So if you wanted to limit it to if they got the other funding in place, and then we could top it up to make the 50, but have ours the last 10, or not have it at all. But the motion is that we put the 10 in. Does that make sense, Ben?
So, no, it's through the, that's fine. Through the chair, who are the participating business, who are the municipalities that are participating in putting money into this? I haven't, is that, that's not what I'm looking at here, is it? Collaborating partners? Is that where the money's coming from?
It has here on the page before, collaborating partners, Wheatland County Economic Development Committee,
Community
Community
Future?
Futures, Strathmore District Chamber of Commerce, and the Bow Valley College.
So, and I seen somewhere else in here that they were looking at holding these events in other municipalities. Have they approached them for funding also, or are they just, are they like Knee Hill and these other ones that I was, where the hell did I see that? Excuse me, where the heck did I see that?
I know if you read in there someplace, they're charging $99 for a seat, is all I can answer that one with. Is staff got any more information?
All
Alan?
the information is in front of you, and they've already presented to council, so I don't know that I can provide anything more than what you have. They are going potentially to Rosebud as one of the places. That's a hamlet in Wheatland County, so there was talk that they may have one of the speaker events at Strathmore, but like was already stated, those are just notionary at this time. They could change depending on venue availability and things of that nature. So the limit they're putting on it is a minimum of 100 people. So if they have less than 100, they would cancel.
Oh, yeah, here's where it was, locations, Rosebud and possible alternative locations in Three Hills or Drumheller, depending on the partnerships. So that tells me that they're talking to those two municipalities for funding, as I'm assuming?
That's correct. But I think part of it too is that this is an initiative that the Wheatland County Economic Development Board is taking. So they would like to have the funding from Wheatland County determined first, rather than going to the other ones. Because if you go to Three Hills, I mean, if you're a councillor in Three Hills, well, you'd say, well, where's Wheatland County on this one, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if, I don't see in here where it says if they don't have 100 participants, they're not going to go through with it.
That's what they've confirmed with me, that they're not going to go if there's less than 100 participants at any or all events.
Okay, that makes a difference too, 100 participants for me. Okay, any other questions? Tom?
To the chair, so if they have less than 100, do we get our 10,000 back? Okay.
Okay.
It's pre-registration, so if they canceled all three of them, there would be no funding that would need to come from the county, and they would give back, if there was any funding from any other municipalities, they would give that back as well. They're also looking at a government grant for this as well, I believe, so.
Okay. Any other questions? I think Amber moved. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Request for decision, tax penalties, rolls. 3909000 and 3910000, 3912000 and 3913000. Page 32.
I'll move that council not reverse penalties on the applied to roll numbers as you listed.
Okay, any questions?
Does administration have any responses to some of the suggested adjustments made by? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. So the suggestions that were provided, I do sympathize with the ratepayer on his suggested methods and perhaps his thoughts on the matter. But realistically, the way that administration that we need to work here is that we need to kind of guarantee cash flow come in at different points of the year. So when a ratepayer acquires land after the tax notices are sent out, it's a responsibility of the ratepayer to ensure that the taxes are paid prior to the posted deadline of the municipality.
Any other questions? I'll ask you one. On page 36, it says, I'm entitled to the same notification as any other ratepayer. Is the county responsible to give notification when taxes are due separately to everyone? Could you tell us about that, please, Brian?
Yes, so the county posts on our website, publishes at our building, and publishes in, I believe, the newspaper as well when our tax deadlines are due. Usually the person's legal counsel will also notify them when taxes are due as well. It's kind of just the piece when someone acquires land. So the county doesn't go out and notify that person individually, but the information is out there for that ratepayer to take in.
Is there any requirement that the county has to notify every parcel owner when taxes are due? I guess that would be a better question.
So the county must publish when our deadlines are. So we do follow that with the publication sent out and every notice that we sent out. Unfortunately, there is the individuals who acquire land in between May 1st and June 30th. Unfortunately, they don't receive that same notification. They don't receive that notification because we mail out, to the best of our knowledge, when we update our records to the person on land titles.
Okay, that answers.
Through
Ben?
the chair, that information is available to their agent or their legal, and that's up to them to make sure that that's part of the contract.
Yes, so typically it would be on the statement of adjustments, any property taxes or anything amounts owing. And we're always available. We always answer phone calls in a timely manner. Everything's published, so.
But the bottom line is we're not required to tell everybody all the time.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? I can't hear.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah. I think Ben already moved that we follow the recommended action. If there's no other questions, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for coming in, Brian. I think we're close enough to 2, will we? Okay, you want to do the budget? Okay. I thought it'd take more than a minute. Okay, we'll go to interim budget, request for decision as presented.
So, Mr. Chairman, there is one change we want to make based on our conversation with Alberta Transportation in Edmonton. We want to revise the schedule on those 2 bridge files, so Mr. Churchill will come here and speak about that. He has a motion prepared in regards to that, to change that.
Okay.
And I think you added something you wanted to add as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, while we're waiting for Mr. Churchill, as part of the correspondence, there was a letter there from Rosebud, and they would like to ask for recognition in the budget for $5,000 as a line item, so they can use it to get support from other grant sources that they presently are not available to get because of lack of municipal support. So I would like to add that on, the $5,000 on in the budget. Is there any questions on that particular one? Ben?
Just, yeah, through the chair. So I know we get these every once in a while where municipalities looking for certain, or a group within the municipalities looking for certain grants. They don't need funding for that. They just need the permission of the municipality, a letter of support that we support that group within the municipality. This is different? How?
It's a little bit different. First off, I should have completed it. I would like to ask this to come out of the economic development part that we've set aside, because it really is economic development. This fund, according to what I understand, is when you fill out your grant papers, there's a little box there to check off if you have municipal support. And if you don't check that off, then you bypass a bunch of the grants. So all of the grants that they qualify for them, but they can't get by the go until they have municipal support. The $5,000 for them is, they have roughly a $3.5 million budget. So the $5,000 isn't the important thing. The important thing is municipal support. So as soon as they can show municipal support, it grants them access to these things. So as moving forward, I asked them every time they got funding from their grants that they would inform council throughout the year, and at the end of the year provide us a report of what this $5,000 actually gave them. And then next budget, if council would have a history if we want to do it again or not. But the first time, I think it's like the previous motion, economic development, you have to throw it out there and see who bites. But that's the way it was impressed to me.
Oh, I understand that. So my query then is, do we not treat all our hamlets the same? Historically, that's one of our positions, that we treat them all the same. And if we set this up for Rosebud, are we setting ourselves up for the same thing in Gleason, Cluny, Carsland, Jamaica, all our other?
And my understanding of this, what this grant can do, the recognition, I would love to treat all the hamlets the same, because they use this as seed money to further their economic development. And if this works out, it would give an example to all the other hamlets or businesses. This is what can be accomplished if we work with them. So in a lot of ways, it's just an economic development. You take a chance, see what happens. And same with anything, yeah. Does it really answer your question, or?
No, it doesn't. Can they get the grants that they're looking for without this if we give them a letter of support?
Evidently, no. This grant funding is for professional theaters. All the theaters, professional quality in the country, are funded by the municipalities. They can show on the map where all their graduates are working. They can show their sphere of influence, but they're not recognized as such because they don't have municipal support. It's a check mark in the box.
So it's because of the School of the Arts that they're dealing, that this isn't similar to a community organization. It's because of the school that they have there that this is applicable.
I can't really answer that. I don't think it's because of the school, it's because of the nature of the grants they're going after. I can put it that way.
But those grants will help further that school.
Well, they get to check that box off. All the other boxes, I'm told, they qualify for.
So for that reason, other communities wouldn't be able to have that argument. So if we were to support this, the other communities couldn't say anything because we can say, well, it was for the arts program. That's where the money went to apply for art program grants, you could say.
That's exactly right. If they could come up with something or a similar type process. The thing I liked about it the best is the regular reporting of what this 5,000 actually does. So when we get a history of it next year, a year from now, we'll have a, hey, it did this, it generated that. And if it doesn't, well, then you still make the decision on, but the first time you go to make the decision, it's faith, I'm thinking.
It's clearer to me now. I can understand it. I can comment on it, and I don't have a problem with it because Rocky Ford or Rosebud is our biggest economic growth that we have in the county as far as proving that a small community can do great things with little to start with and end up with lots. So, I respect what they've done over there, so I don't have an issue with it. I just wanted to make sure I had it clear up here why.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And David, you have I see Brian is up there. I thought Dave had a motion for difference in culverts because of our meeting with Alberta Environment last week. Or Alberta Transportation, thanks for that.
That's all correct.
We didn't meet with Environment.
Yeah, so further to our discussions with them, I've changed our plans for installing those 2 culverts. I've moved them forward to this year. And I've postponed 2 culverts back to fill those positions. So that's kind of what the motion's about. The actual cost difference is $30,000, I believe, if I remember correctly. And that's to the benefit for this budget year, so it will have very little effect on the budget. So I don't know if there's any questions or concerns. If there aren't, I'll read the resolution as I see it should be, and then we can discuss it.
How about you read the resolution, then we can make comments on it.
Okay.
Thanks.
That council approve moving the replacement of bridge files 75966 and 75967, which are located on Access Road 133, Township Road 263, from Highway 21 to the village of Rockyford forward to the 2018 budget year, and that the replacement of the 2 bridge files 09387 and 09214 be delayed until 2019 and 2020 respectively, with any cost differences being transferred in or out of the bridge and culvert reserve as required.
Okay, thanks for that. Do I have a mover for that or questions?
Question to Dave through the chair. So doing that and moving them, and I know that was my suggestion up in Edmonton, but moving those around doesn't adversely affect where those other culverts are as far as road building?
No, through the chair, no, not at all. We've studied that. The 2 bridges that are being moved into the future are actually existing bridges, and they don't have any carrying capacity issues. It's more erosion issues that we can deal with for the short term.
Okay.
I'll put my name to his
Okay,
motion.
Ben has moved. Is there any other questions? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're back still on the intern operating and capital budget, final draft. Any questions? You have anything more to add, Brian? Just there to answer questions.
Just here to answer questions. There was one minor change that we had made that was identified by administration. That's on page 45 of the operating budget. We just reallocated $5,000 from administrative advertising to ASB advertising. It's just kind of a shift of advertising budget in different departments.
Okay.
That's for the operating budget. Unfortunately, Dave left, but on page 124 of the capital budget, there was an additional piece of equipment identified by Dave, Mr. Churchill, that was a requirement for 2018, and that's also identified on page 145 of the agenda.
Okay. Any questions? Council's wishes.
Not a question, but I'll move that council accept the amended operating and capital budget for 2018.
So are you accepting the operating or approving the operating?
Approving it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you need two? Okay, I'll do the first one for the operating budget then.
I move that council accepts the interim capital budget for 2018 to 2022 as presented.
Can I suggest it be approved rather than accept, if you're okay with it?
Approved? Okay. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not used to going that fast. 2 o'clock, we have Planning and Development Department, see Agenda 3.4A. First reading for bylaw 2017-58.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll make them slow down. She's just gonna go get her coat, so just wait a minute. Okay, Colton, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay. So the subject of this is, it's an amendment to Direct Control District 7 that applies to the Lake Summerfield community. The major changes, if council does approve this, so today is just for first reading approval. Then there would have to be a subsequent public hearing in December if this received first reading today. And then council would have the option of second and third reading after the public hearing in December or next year. That's if they give a first reading. If you don't give first reading today, then it would be done, or it can go back for changes.
Everyone understand? Okay.
So the major changes in this are to shift dwelling single detached from a discretionary use to permitted use in cells 1 and 3. So that changes as a result of council direction to administration out of a committee of the whole earlier this year, as well as shift dwelling semi-detached from a discretionary use to a permitted use in cell 2. It would require detailed architectural design guidelines for future commercial development within the Lake Summerfield. It would create a new cell 9, which would restrict future development on unserviced, unsubdivided lands until 90% of the lots in cell 1 have issued building permits pursuant to the Safety Codes Act. And then the last one is more of a housekeeping item to provide a reduced setback for side garage drive homes due to the unique configuration of the homes on the lot. So that's when you have your garage not facing the street, but you just drive in from the side. You can bring your house a bit closer because you don't have to have your full car parked right in front of your garage. It's more of a drive up around the side. So that's why that's there. Staff's recommendation is that council choose option 1, first reading approval, as it would streamline development approvals in the Lake Summerfield. The second one is the previous action of shifting dwellings from being permitted to a discretionary use did not result in a change in expediting the wastewater solution for the Lake Summerfield. The restrictions on future development on the additional lots would address resident concerns about weeds and a lack of overall maintenance and attention to these properties. The restrictions on future development are in line with standard subdivision practice that focuses on developing existing phases prior to construction. Otherwise, you have more leapfrog development where you haven't really built out your existing before you moved on. And then finally, reduced setback would allow side garage drive homes enough driveway space for vehicles so they don't impede the sidewalks or roadways, while allowing builders the additional flexibility in home choices. It also minimizes the variance requests that come from the Lakes and Murfield for this issue. So this is another streamlining, trying to reduce red tape action by staff. Finally, addition of architectural controls will maintain Murfield residents' home values as a community with a strong identity and sense of place. Now I'm going to go down to the report and get into the background here, as many of you were not here previously for the background. So I'll just kind of go over it, highlights, but the whole detail is in your package. So the initial DC for the Lakes of Murfield was approved by council in August 2005, with the community starting construction shortly thereafter in the summer of 2006. In 2007, Rocky View County and Murfield Land Corp, that's the original developer, they entered into a wastewater servicing and cost sharing agreement for Murfield wastewater to be handled by Rocky View County's infrastructure. In 2013, after further review, Rocky View County determined that it was not recovering the actual costs associated with the agreement, and they significantly raised Murfield's cost for utilizing the system. As a result of this, Murfield did not continue to move ahead with a contract with Rocky View County for taking the development's wastewater. Since this time, there's not been a permanent wastewater solution in place for the Murfield community. On March 24th, 2015, County Council directed administration to work with the county's legal counsel to determine options for addressing the lack of permanent wastewater solution for the Lakes of Murfield. Administration then brought a number of options forward to Council in April of 2015's Committee of the Whole meeting for discussion. Following the discussion on the various options, Council directed staff to amend the land use bylaw and the Murfield Direct Control District with the amendment to make dwellings, show homes, and community buildings a discretionary use and include development standards requiring a permanent wastewater servicing solution, such as a fully piped servicing to a wastewater treatment plant, sewage lagoon, or approved wastewater servicing to be completed as a condition of any further development. As per Council's direction, staff did these amendments. The most significant amendment, of course, was shifting dwellings to now needing to come to Council for decisions. Previously, they just went to the development officers. This significantly increases timelines for development permits, as it also requires external agencies and processing in line with council meeting dates. After this change took place, James Sousa, the applicant on behalf of the developer, applied for amendments to the DC to allow for commercial uses in Cell 7, as these had been removed from the DC that was approved on April 19, 2016. Council then subsequently re-added the commercial uses in March of 2017. Following all of these amendments to the DC, Council discussed the issue of the wastewater servicing and discretionary use DPs at the July 5th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting. As a result of this COW meeting, staff was directed to amend the DC, as I stated, to make dwellings a permitted use. Direction was also provided to consider options for dealing with the challenge of a large number of vacant lots dispersed among the built-out lots within the community. Typically, developments are constructed in phases, and a significant portion of a phase is built out before the developer moves ahead with the construction of subsequent phases. As I noted, there was the weed issues. So staff then worked on the DC amendments following Council's direction on July 5th, and we consulted with the developer, community residents, and of course considered and incorporated Council's direction and comments. The majority of the research and drafting was completed in the fall, late summer, fall. However, due to the freeze on first readings until after the election, we weren't able to bring this to Council until today. I then go through our policy analysis in terms of the MGA. It provides direction that we are able to move ahead with these amendments as proposed. There was general alignment with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. Same with the Regional Growth Management Strategy. There was general alignment with the proposals. With the Municipal Development Plan, of course, the challenge is the servicing and the lack of a permanent wastewater solution for the community as it currently stands. So that is a concern that was raised. We then reviewed the amendments to the DC district against the Lakes and Murfield Area Structure Plan, and we note they largely align. The requirement for architectural controls aligns with Section 4.2 of the ASP. And as the village center is on the edge of the community, the aesthetic appeal of future development in that area would be important. Once again, as I noted in the MGA section, legal counsel provided clarity and guidance on the alignment between this DC district and the phasing plans noted in the ASP. Given the wording conceptual as noted in the ASP, the general alignment of the allowable development cells within the phasing noted in the ASP, and the developer's support of the amendments, staff is of the opinion that there is general alignment with this document. As per the provincial government direction, updates to the Lakes and Murfield Area Structure Plan will need to be reviewed in the near future to ensure alignment with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. So if this DC moves forward as is, we'd be looking to incorporate those into the Area Structure Plan as well. In terms of the land use bylaw, the proposed amendments will have to align with the rules and regulations of this specific DC and the land use bylaw. We then circulated to external agencies. These are Alberta Health Services had no concerns as long as we maintained it in accordance with the Health Act and sanitation guideline. ACO Pipelines had no objections. Same with TELUS, the W and the WID. We circulated to all landowners within a mile of the Lakes and Murfield community as well as within the Lakes and Murfield community. And we did not receive any letters in support or objection. However, we did receive a letter of support from the developer, which is attached in your package here. So there's 3 options for council's consideration: that the first reading of bylaw 2017-58 be granted as is currently drafted, and then that would be the first motion, and then motion 2 would be to schedule a public hearing for December 19th, 2017 to commence at 1 p.m. in council chambers. Option 2 is that first reading of bylaw 2017-58 be refused. So that would halt the process. Everything would continue to move ahead as it has been. I'd bring the development permits forward to you guys, to council for a decision. Or option 3, you can approve an alternate recommendation and staff will move forward on that basis. Just go through the images here. So location plan of the community, area plan of the subject community. So, and then this is the bylaw map. So you'll see here, cell 9, this is where future development, so these have not been subdivided out yet into individual lots and the roadways have not been built. So staff, if this DC was approved, development would not be permitted within this cell 9 until 90% of building permits have been issued for cell 1, which is all of this main, I'll go back up here, along this main road here.
Got a question? Ask it.
Through the chair, just to clarify, so cell 3 is currently part of the initial build out? I noticed that like in your notes.
Through the chair, that's correct. So cell 3 is part of the community. However, we're not requiring 90% of the homes to be built in cell 3 before cell 9 are built, because it's a totally different product type, totally different clientele and demographic.
So it wouldn't be appropriate necessarily to expect 90% build out before somebody could develop in cell 3?
Correct. Staff was of the opinion that cell 3 doesn't need 90% build out due to the estate homes and larger lots typically.
Oh, swap out with Ben. Oh, really? An idea. That gives me an idea. Okay.
There we go. Well, that's a way to get me to be quiet. So, but yeah, basically with cell 3, because it takes so long for estate homes to build out, that's why we didn't make them have 90% build out. It's quite different than the rest of the community.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, to the chair. If we go to the slide above this one, I believe. Yeah, okay, it's there. The development is on the red line? Is that what is being developed now? It doesn't show very good on the overhead, but.
No, yeah. Through
the next picture there. I'm just trying to figure out just next one down. Oh, up, sorry, go the other way, sorry. I apologize. Yeah, there's a red line in there. There's blue lines on like showing the roadways. So, yeah, so if we follow, those are the areas that are developed now or have roads to them that are developed now?
Through the chair, the blue line is also developed as well. The different coloration is with the status of the roads with the county, with our public works department. In terms of this blue road is developed up to Coates Close. There's a couple houses up here and it goes up to this endpoint where there is no lines. So all around this part at the top, that's where there's no roads. The cell map kind of shows better where there is development we'd like to see allowed still in the cell 1 and the 2 I guess this one does generally follow the one colored line. And then cell 9 is where development would be restricted, which just compare. Somewhat aligns with the color, however, this part's in cell 1 and it's blue.
I think the line you see on that page 224, that white line is the canal. It's not a road. Does that make sense? Okay, it doesn't line up. Ben?
Where is the build out on cells 1 and where's that at? 20%, 40%, 60%? Where's that at?
So through the chair, there's approximately 120 homes currently built out in the community since 2007. In terms of the number of lots, I could defer to the.
What's the percentage?
Through the chair, I'd have to maybe request to have the developer come up to speak to that. But in terms of rough percentage, when we did the stats, it all depends on how calculating it with issued building permits and whatnot.
Okay,
We're not near 90%, nowhere near, definitely multiple years.
That was my question. We're nowhere near 90%, so why are we worried about cells 9 until we do get closer to the 90%?
Through the chair, we would, sorry, I'm just trying to understand the question here. So in terms of cell 9, nothing can happen in cell 9 until that 90% has been reached. If you wanted to change that number to 95 or lower.
No, I'm not talking about changing the number. I'm just saying, why are we even looking at cell 9 until cell 1 is developed up to that 90%? Then come talk to us.
So that's what the issue was with how the development was done. Is typically, you're correct, you do it in phases. Once one development's built out, then the developer's financing, you move on to build out additional roads and the community. What's unique about this one is they built a lot of the road. They built like this long road. Let me go up to the aerial. They built it all the way up here, and they have all these subdivided lots. It's quite unusual for a community to be developed this way with this many lots all up front. So I see your point. However, that was at the subdivision stage. That would have to have been looked at.
They'll still be there.
Okay, any other questions? Council's will. The process, just explain it. First, we have first reading, and then we advertise for 2 weeks minimum, and then we have a public hearing where everybody comes in and states if they're for it or against it. And at that time, you can amend the bylaw. Maybe you can, I'm sure you can change the 90 to 91 or 83 or whatever number comes out at the public hearing. And then when everybody's spoken at the public hearing, then we have 2 more readings after that. So by doing first reading gives an opportunity for the public to come in and state their concerns, and you can get engineers and all that kind of stuff involved too. So if there's not any questions, Tom? You ready? Well, I need a motion for first reading.
I move that bylaw 2017-58 be given first reading.
Okay. Is there any questions? A recorded vote? All in favor? Opposed? 2, it's carried. Councillor Armstrong and Wilson voted in opposition, and the rest of the council voted in favor. Okay, thank you. It's 2:30.
Can I just make the second motion that we need?
Oh, they asked for another motion to schedule the public hearing. How come?
Through the chair. So this is the first time that we're bringing forward our new process that we've started. So for the benefit of the new councillors, how it used to work is first reading used to be a very short blurb. We'd just show where the rezoning is. There was no report, not much that came with it. And first reading was largely automatically given every single time. Then we would do the public hearing. We've now shifted the process where we do the whole report up front and first reading. So council now has the option to either refuse it right at first reading rather than go all the way to a public hearing if they don't feel it's necessary or appropriate. So that's why we now need the motion for scheduling of the public hearing following this report. So it'll be a bit different when we actually go to public hearing. I'm not going to be doing this big report all over again. I'm going to do the quick highlights. The public will be able to speak. Council will then be able to discuss, and then you'll have the option to either do second and third right after that public hearing, or you could even go into the next month if you'd like.
Okay.
So
But hence, why do we have a motion when the public hearing is going to be?
that's correct. So in line with most municipal processes, we're now doing a motion. So at the time of first reading, we have people aware of when that public hearing will be. If that motion's given, I'll then put the ad in the newspaper and it'll be advertised. We're doing our advertisement a bit differently in that the letters to adjacent landowners is now sent out in advance of first reading. So everyone will have gotten the letter for the first reading. We won't be sending out a second letter now for the public hearing. It'll just be advertised in the paper because all the comments will have been brought forward for this first reading report.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll look for a motion for the public hearing. Amber?
I move that a public hearing for bylaw 2017-58 be scheduled for December 19th, 2017, to commence at 1 p.m. in council chambers.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's 2:30. Mr. Sousa, you're on the agenda. Lake Summerfield Development Update Wastewater Servicing.
Are we on? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimmy Souza, and I'm the project manager at the Lakes of Muirfield in Lyelta, Alberta. Clearly, I'm off to a good start with the new council. Before I start, I just got to tell you guys that I'm a passionate guy, and I believe for the last 11 years, I believe that every time I come in this room, I'm in here doing what I believe is in the best interest of the residents or the props at the Lakes of Muirfield, however you guys want to see it. Jimmy Souza does not benefit or suffer from the decisions made in this room. Has nothing to do, I live in Calgary, it doesn't impact me one bit. Who it does impact are the ratepayers that pay taxes in this county and by default pay your salaries. Those are the people that I stand here representing. Call them whatever you want. I believe that in this particular case, first of all, thank you for making the right decision and moving forward with that. But I was not here at the last meeting when a couple of development permits were approved. Not physically, I was here in spirit. In other words, I watched the video. And there were some comments made. I think that the new councilors, those of you that are new, deserve a bit of a history, a bit of a background beyond what Colton just read up there. He gave you a pretty good thing going back to 2015. But there's a little bit more that I think needs to be shed, a little bit of light, so that you guys can make informed decisions. That's really what this is all about. This is about, when I stand here, I mean, the main objective is, you could shrink it down to an espresso cup of coffee, is the property values at Muirfield. I'm trying to make decisions. I'm hoping that you guys can make decisions that will either maintain or increase the property values at Muirfield. And turning Muirfield into a ghost town does not do that. Okay? It just doesn't. I understand what council is trying to do. Staff and I have been working really good together for the last couple of years. And I understand what you're trying to do here, previous council and some of you members now, in holding the developers' feet to the fire and putting the hammer down and all that sort of stuff. But that's not what's happening here. That's not what's taking place here. What happened here earlier with Amy, the developer, my boss, whoever you want to refer to him as, he is not affected by these decisions. And by you guys allowing these permits to go through, he's not sitting there going, haha, we got away with another one. We don't have to build the sewage treatment plant. Haha, we got another. That's not what's happening here. It seems like that's what you guys think, that if we say no, or if we say yes, they're going to say, hey, we can drag this thing on as long as we want. Or if we say no, then they're going to have to fix it. That is not what's taking place here. No one wants this resolved more than the developer. In fact, he spent $300,000 subsidizing the wastewater trucking costs over the last 2 years, out of his pocket. Every month, literally, money down the drain. Literally. He spent. No one wants this done more than him. But he's a businessman, and he's going to weigh all his options. I have, based on some of the comments that were made at that last meeting, it made it seem like I've been sitting on my hands for 2 years doing nothing. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I've turned over every rock, every stone. I've gone to the latest and greatest technology. I've gone back to the United States to find out what they're doing down there. I had a solution, in fact. I had a solution with the town of Strathmore. I spent the entire year of 2016. I did a presentation in front of their council. I got handshakes. I got wow. It was requested that I work with the staff for the city of Strathmore, in the town of Strathmore. And I did that. And I did that month after month after month. And I kept saying to them, guys, by the way, if ever this is not going to happen, please, I would rather have a very quick no than a long, drawn-out yes. So please, work with me, work with me. Everything was going unbelievable. We spent $50,000 on a feasibility study to build a pipeline from the Lakes of Muirfield into the sewage treatment plant in Strathmore. Things were going unbelievable. Everything was going like I was working directly with the engineer, with the town's engineer. That's who I was instructed to work with council and with the CAO of Strathmore at the time. It was the summer of 2016. One of the residents at Muirfield played golf with the mayor of the town, and he said, done deal. It's just a formality. She called me the next day, said, wow, we're going to get this done. Sadly, 2 months later, I received a letter from that very same mayor who told the resident at Muirfield it was a done deal. I received this letter saying, hey, we regret to inform you that council has now decided not to do it. My curiosity was piqued, and I wondered, did I say something bad? Did I offend someone? What happened? I had lunch with him, the mayor, and a couple of staff members, and I was told that this was a Calgary regional planning thing. Something I'd never even heard the expression before. But from what I understand, it was Calgary telling the town of Strathmore. They've said it to Rocky View because Rocky View said the same thing to me. You guys don't do anything. Basically, what they made it seem like to me was Calgary now became like a big brother and could veto anything, to the point where the mayor said, Jimmy, we could be fined if we do. We want to do this, we want to help you, but we can't, because we could be fined and we can't afford to pay that fine. So sorry, we can't help you with a permanent solution. We will continue to take your waste on a temporary basis till 2019, like the letter says. We will give you an extension on that if you need it. But right now, we can't come to the table. That was a whole year of me thinking, wow, this is a done deal. So that's part of why we thought we had a solution. That's part of why, as you've said, Ben, I come in here and I say, hey, we got it, we got it, we got it, we got it. I'm not saying that because I want to deceive you in any way, shape, or form. I want to lie to you. I'm saying because I believe it. I believe that we had a done deal. I went and I did a presentation for Rocky View, the very same people that messed us over, because one of their counselors called me and said, hey, why don't you give a presentation? We're back at the table. Maybe we can do a regional thing and get some grant money from the province. I have turned over every rock, every stone, everything I can possibly do to solve this problem. Now, let's get to the current day today. And I just wanted to make that point that I haven't been sitting on my hands here. I want to fix this. The developer wants to fix it. I say my boss, I have a contract with that gentleman, okay? So my company has a contract to get this job done. So he's the developer, I'm the project manager. But what's happening now is, as you guys know, there was another development that was approved in Wheatland County, directly across the street from us. In my mind, in some of your staff's mind, it made sense to work collectively, to collaborate with that developer and say, hey, there's no sense in having two sewage treatment plants where you build one and we build one on the other side of Range Road 264. Let's try and do this together. For many, many, many months, I was caught up in that. Wow, here's a solution and this and that. What the good news and what I did say, Ben, because I know you were wondering what I said at that town hall meeting. What I said was, we're going to listen to them until the end of this month, until the end of November. And if at that time, we don't see any results from that, and please keep in mind that we know that our development is separate and distinct from that development. The two have nothing in common. I'm just saying that it would make sense to solve this problem collectively for both developments. But if they don't come to us with money and a solution at that time, by the end of this month, so next week, we are going to move forward with our own engineers, with our own utility company, with our own resources to fix this problem. That's what I said, Ben, at that meeting. And you were there, Glenn. I think you can attest to that. So where do I stand right now? The clock is ticking. The end of the month is coming. What's happening there is I have now reached out because I had been hearing so many stories for many years about, oh, a group out of Vancouver, a group out of Vancouver. I finally had to put my foot down and say, I need to talk to that group out of Vancouver because I'm no longer believing what I'm being told. So I want to speak with these people. They were kind enough to let me talk to the actual lenders, the funders who want to work with the developer and say, hey, you know what? I know that you don't want to own the developer of this project has no desire to own a utility company. But that's what both developments require, is an actual utility company. So what's going on now is I was told verbally, and I was hoping to have something in writing standing in front of you right now. I don't have it, but I could probably have it by the end of the month. Like I said, I would. You good? Okay. All right. You're doing some dancing over there. I just want to make sure we're okay. So I was told that I would have, he went on vacation. The gentleman went on vacation, but he said, Jimmy, the funds are committed. I conveyed that to the developer. Hey, half of these funds, there's $5 million earmarked for a sewage treatment plant in Lyalta, Alberta. I'll have that in writing, God willing, when he gets back from vacation. Him and the developer are going to sit together at that time. They're going to carve out, where are we going to build this? How are we going to build it? When are we going to get our approvals? That's where we're at right now. So, can I sit here and say to you, hey, boom, we got a sewage treatment plant? I can't do that right now. And I wouldn't do that. And I've never done that. What I've done is I've been honest and forthright and upfront with saying, I am doing everything I possibly can because, again, I'm not the developer, and that man makes the decisions on when he's going to stroke a check. But he wants to get this done. We are going to get this done. And holding his feet to the fire and turning Muirfield, like I said, that's the only way I know how to express it, turning Muirfield into a ghost town is not the solution for this. It doesn't affect the guys that have already purchased lots. In other words, when you ask about those numbers, Ben, we've got 135 occupied homes. So I would say, I'm not very good at math. I didn't know there was going to be any math at this meeting, but I would say it's roughly 70% of phase one has been built out and is literally occupied. So in other words, if somebody wants to click some buttons on their calculator, 122 out of 184 lots. So there's 184 lots in phase one, 122 of those are actually occupied as we speak right now. And then there are 14 more homes occupied in phase two, which is that cell 3 that you were referring to as you go up. So I've been working with Colton and Angie. We've come up with what we think is a really good solution that, hey, let's allow development from here that's already started in phase one. Let's go up to the canal And then that, where Amy's application was in cell 3, those are, what Amy was trying to say is those 14 lots, they were always owned by other people. In other words, that was the seed money that started this entire development. That happened before I was even involved in this, and I've been involved for 11 years. So those 11 landowners always owned that dirt. It was never developer owned, nothing like that. And that's what Amy was trying to get across is, oh my goodness, the developer's not even involved. Yes, we're involved in that we have to fix the problem for them as well. But those lots were not purchased through the developer. That was her and her husband buying a lot for the purposes of building their dream home. So I just think that I understand it and there's nothing I can do about it. But I think in you guys voting in favor of the first reading today is the best thing you could have done, because here's what we can all do. We can all let the people at Muirfield who are directly affected by this, let them come in at the public hearing and let them tell us what they'd like to do from this point. And you know what? If they stand up in front of you and say, yeah, stop the development until this guy fixes the problem, then great. But I have a feeling they're not going to say that, because they're going to say, my goodness, if I'm one of 130 homes in what is a 700 lot subdivision, do I not have a half an hour?
You have a half hour, but let's refrain from talking about what might or might not happen at the public hearing. When council makes a first reading, I advise them all not to listen or talk.
Fair enough. Okay. But I'm saying I commend you for making the right decision, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're going to let the people who are affected speak for themselves, okay? So if this happens the way I think it's going to happen, the next step will be an Alberta Environment Approval, okay? So we'll have to go through the approval process of a mechanical treatment facility. Now, having said that, there is already an Alberta Environment Approved system in place. The problem with it is it's very, very, very expensive. And it involves an 18-kilometer pipeline to Catalans and then lagoons and all this other stuff. The whole purpose of this exercise is at the end of it, we want the rates that the people at Muirfield pay to be as reasonable and as cheap as possible. The more money that's spent on this solution, we all know business, and the end user is the one that ends up paying for this at the end of the day. So the more money that's spent on the solution, the more money it's going to cost the residents in the rates that they pay. So we're trying to weigh all of that and say, what's the best possible solution at the best possible price for the best possible result? That's what I've been doing for 2 years. Not sitting on my hands, not saying, geez, I hope another application gets passed so I don't have to do anything. Nothing could be further from the truth. Whether you pass these things or not, we're doing the same things. We're taking the same steps, taking the same action regardless. The only ones that are affected, whether you pass them or not, are the builders that bought the lots a long time ago, the homeowners that bought the lots now. The developer is not affected in any way, shape, or form. Yet he still wants to get this done because of that $300,000 that I told you he's already spent. I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Yeah, I'm new. So normally a division, a subdivision, a development has phases. I'm just sort of confused on the cell 1 and 2. So there's phase 1 and phase 2, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That is, and we are working on, like, where are we developing? Are we developing phase 1 and development in phase 2?
Yeah, right now, some of the, because there's a different product in phase 2. So the products, and what Colton was referring to earlier, was in that cell 3 and another portion of phase 2, there's 2 different types of products that are not single-family homes. Well, they're single-family homes, but they're on acreage lots. So they're larger lots, and they're building larger homes. There's only 14 of those. But there's another product that's a duplex. It's sort of it's a duplex, for lack of a better, we call them villas, but it's a house with a party wall in the middle. So we found that product was more price point oriented, and those, we sold 12 of those as well. So that's why when we started going up into what is technically phase 2, those were allowed because they were a different animal. And when the market took a bit of a dip, we thought, you know what, we're going to have to bring something on stream. And not us, the builders thought that, and they purchased the lots from us to do that. So that's why you see a little sporadic in phase 1 and phase 2. What Colton is trying to do, and I agree with it, is say, hey, hang on, let's use the canal because it bisects the property. Let's use the canal as our defining point, and you can go all the way up to the canal right here on that cul-de-sac that Amy was here earlier, that cell 3 that we've identified. You can build there, and you can put some more duplexes in, but no more. After that, all the lots that are subdivided and serviced beyond the canal, north of the canal, we're going to put a stop on that. And everything in cell 9, which I agree with you there, Ben. Why are we even talking about cell 9? Cell 9 is so far down the road that, I mean, we're at this for 11 years now. Like, cell 9, God willing, perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. We're 5-6 years out from that anyway.
Okay, so phase 1, 185 lots.
184, correct. Yep.
Okay, phase 2, between the acreage lots and the villa. So
Yeah,
villa
what's
lots.
gone on there, a great question, is I've sort of, when the economy went like this in 28, we took the whole of phase 2 that was 233 lots, and we cut it in half into a phase 2A and a phase 2B. Phase 2A are the lots, that blue line that you saw in that drawing that was going up, that's 2A, and phase 2B is all part of cell 9, that he's identified as cell 9. 2A has 87 single-family lots, 14 acreage lots, and 40 of those villa units. So 20 lots with 2 units per, you know, it's a duplex, 2 doors if you want to call it that, yeah. And of those 87 single families, if we do what's proposed, again, the math thing, 70 odd would not be allowed to be built on until we have a permanent solution. So the villas would be allowed to be built, 15 lots south of Canal would be allowed to be built, and the acreage lots would allow to be built. And then there's some lots that, if we could get the drawing up there, I could probably show you a little bit better. And we don't have an issue with that.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
I think we did get on a wrong foot there.
And I
but-
apologize for that.
No, as do I, but I can't support making the problem bigger without seeing at least a solution in end. I mean, if I could see a timeline saying, you know what, this shovels can be in the ground by this time, I can totally support, you know what, let's grow the development. And I'm not holding up development. I don't want to hold up development permits to hold the developers' feet to the fire. I just don't want to increase the problem that we have at hand. I know we have a solution right now, a temporary solution, but I can't continue to advocate for development when that's not a set in stone. Because I don't find it fair. If that goes through, if Strathmore decides, you know what, we can't take this anymore, and there's no plan in place, that's going to be up to the county to deal with. And I don't think it's fair for my ratepayers to be putting their tax money in to solve this problem that should have been solved a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I can't support, like, that's why I can't sit there and say, you know, let's just keep going, push through it. I'm sure we'll find, as Ben said, eventually we'll get this right. We all watch the videos, and I do hope that happens. But until I see a timeline and a set in stone plan, I can't commit to anything.
Can I ask you, Jason, what you mean when you say increase the problem? How is adding more homes increasing?
Well, so more homes, you're going to add your wastewater, and if it falls through the roof, falls through the floor, this plan of trucking it to Strathmore, you've doubled, or not doubled, but you've increased your population there, so you have higher waste to deal with. So that's going to cost the county more if it were to go under, right?
But the county, so far, we've cost the county nothing, right?
No, I'm
You
saying
understand
if
that?
it
Yeah.
were to go under.
And my boss was to walk away from the 25 million that he's got in place, you're saying? Like, if he was to
Yeah,
just
no,
say,
totally,
hey,
yes.
you know what, I'm gonna lick my wounds and I'm just gonna run
Yes.
away. Is that what you, that's, so okay. I'm just trying to understand
Yeah, no, and
what you're
that-
saying. I
that's
just
where
wanna
I'm-
make sure. Because I don't, like, I'm looking at it from a business standpoint and a glass half full. That Strathmore, I have a letter saying they're gonna do that. I know they've done nothing but helpful. And that a new utility company coming into the mix is more apt to say, I like this because I have more customers that are paying right now. Whereas if we were to just stop development, I think it would be more difficult to persuade or entice someone to come in to say, holy crap, I'm going to spend $12 million for 130 customers that are paying $80 a month apiece. Let's see, at that rate, I'm 185 when I get my money back. So I'm trying to look at it from I clearly understand what you're saying, and I'm glad you and I are back to being buds.
Not yelling at each other.
because it did bother me. So, but I'm wondering if you could maybe look at the other side of that equation and say, hey, you know what? Stopping development doesn't, like I said, it's as far as the developer, he's not saying, hey, as long as they keep approving houses, I don't have to. That's not what's being said. Whether they're approved or not, we're moving as fast as we possibly can. Like I said, I wasted an entire year, a lot of money chasing the Strathmore thing. Then I chased the Rocky View thing. Then we chased the Catalan thing. And now we've got it narrowed down where I honestly believe, and dance all you want, Ben, but I honestly believe that this time we're going to get it right. I believe that sincerely. So that's what I'm asking is if you can, you know, think a little bit more forward-like and say, hey, you know what? I know they're going to fix this. They have to fix it because at a certain point, I mean, my goodness, it does create a problem. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Through the chair, is there any commitment from the developer to continue subsidizing the trucking of the wastewater until a permanent solution is in place?
There's not a commitment to stop, and he's been doing it for 2.5 years. This started out as a $15,000 a month. It's gone to $7,000. That check is there every single month. $7,000. Just like I said, just money down the drain. And he wants to stop that bleeding. Absolutely. Like that's $300,000. I mean, at that point, we could have bought our own vacuum truck and been hauling it. Which sounds stinky.
Well, it's still pretty.
Sounds stinky, but
It's, through the chair, it's still fairly insignificant compared to a permanent system. So
Absolutely.
I'm not sure that the Band-Aid would want to be ripped off that quickly for the wound of a permanent system.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that he's subsidizing it now.
thank you.
So, thank you for that presentation, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
You said it would be a short one, but I've never heard you do it.
Yeah, you know what? I have a hard time. Yeah.
But anyways, seems to me we were in the same position about a year ago with a line from, and you guys coming in and asking us to speed up and give permission and take some of the pressure off because we were charging too much for the holdback on the line, and it was a permanent solution. It was going to work, and everything. Now we're here, and you're trying to convince me that from now until next week, you guys don't know what's going to happen, and then next week, all of a sudden, you'll make the decision that if they don't do what you're thinking they're going to do, you're going to come in and put in a plant or put in a horse with a buggy on the back of it. I don't know what you're going to put in, but anyways, you're saying, but if your developer has to have a plan in his back pocket if he's going to do it that fast. And I don't know why he couldn't have come to us 3 months ago with that same plan and said, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to start it on the 1st of October or the 1st of September, not on the 30th of November when we're starting into the winter season. And you know damn well that we're going to be spring before anything happens to whatever solution it is, if it happens. So if it doesn't work out at the end of the month, you may come in and tell us what you're going to do, but we're not going to, I don't think we're going to see anything on hard paper that guarantees us that's what's going to happen, one way or the other.
Yep. Can I address that? You know what, and you're right. You're absolutely right. But what I can narrow it down in one word, and that was a commitment that we made to someone else, saying, "Listen, we're going to listen to you. We're going to keep it because we believe what you're telling us. But at a certain point, shame on us for continuing to listen. And the line in the sand that is drawn happens to be November. Now keep in mind, we have to get an Alberta environment approval anyway. So we can do that when the ground is frozen. And then come springtime, we can, go into the construction season. So no matter what I had to report here today, it wasn't a, snap of the fingers.
They got that environment approval 6 months ago.
That would have been in a perfect world. My goodness. Yeah. No, I understand. I get it. I get it.
Through the chair. I'm just trying to get this. So the sewage is trucked. Okay, so at this particular time, how many honey wagons a day are we pulling out of this place?
Great question. Just so you know what happened, the other thing that we're walking away from, this 300,000 seems like a drop in the bucket, but the $3 million that we gave to the MD of Rockyview is going to become an abandoned line under the ground. So there's a line that runs 6 kilometers into the county of Rockyview. And then there's a holding tank that was supposed to be a lift station. And I would say, Tom, is it?
Yes.
I would say, Tom, that there are probably 5 to 7 trucks per day that go into Strathmore.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why the company that we hired was crucial as well, because you couldn't just, I had a friend of mine, Ronnie Roberts, some of you may know him in Strathmore, who, I'll do the work for half the price, but Ronnie's got one truck, and the day that truck broke down. So we had to do this, to make sure that nothing bad ever happened, and we didn't cause contamination in Rockyview.
Okay, so we're using 5 to 7 trucks a day. So if we build out to what you want to build out, that's basically, we're halfway there now. So over the next couple of years, it's taken 12 to get here, but just say we're optimistic in the next 3 years we build out, and there still isn't a solution in place, we're looking at 10 to 14 trucks a day. Now, that's not a big deal. I don't have a problem with that. Is there an alternative to Strathmore if Strathmore says 2 years from now you can't dump in Strathmore? Is there an alternative? Can you go somewhere else?
As I sit here right now, I would never venture a guess on that. I haven't looked into it. I know that Langdon has told us, that's where we were trucking it. That's where Rockyview was trucking it. So I know that's not an option. I have talked to other individuals. I can't think of the name of the municipality. It's north of where we are. Did they have a sewage treatment plant? Someone said that we might be able to truck it there, but again, I don't know any of those people. So that's a great question. Great question. If Strathmore said no, if Strathmore said no, I can only think that this gets really crappy, both literally and figuratively. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jimmy, for the update.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it, and I apologize for what went on earlier.
Okay. Motion to accept Jimmy's for information.
I accept this presentation and report as information.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, it's a little after 3, and we have an appointment with Lake Summerfield again. Mr. Ham, legal counsel.
Mr. Reeve, members of council, I've been listening to Mr. Souza for only a couple of years explain all of the alternatives he's explored, and I can verify that he has explored them all. And the approach of this council, and I know you're in a difficult position. I don't want to suggest that you've got an easy decision. When Muirfield was approved, it was initially on the basis that the waste was going to go to Rockyview County. and Muirfield didn't develop quickly enough, so there weren't enough customers. So Rocky View effectively raised the rates because they said, well, we can't lose money on a contract because we're a not-for-profit organization, so the general rules of contract don't apply to us. So they looked for an out, and they took it and left you holding the bag. And Ms. Clower and I think are agreed on one thing. At the end of the day, if a development goes south, it's the municipality that ends up having to fix it. Not through any legal principle, but just through the fact that you've now got, in this case, 135 ratepayers who are looking to you for a solution. And part of the problem is that utility companies are based on decreasing cost principles. Simplistically, it costs you the same or less to add one more customer than it did to add the prior customer. The cost per customer goes down the more you have. So the more customers you have, the easier it is to get to solve the problem because it's more attractive to start a utility company. The problem is that getting to that position where somebody comes along and says, yep, I'm going to start a utility company and make money with this sucker, is continual risk on the part of the municipality. But you've already got 135 people, families, who are looking to you for a solution. And the only solution you've come up with is, well, let's stop the development. Yes, from one perspective, that's making sure the problem doesn't get any bigger. But from another perspective, it's ensuring that you'll never get to the point where a utility company will make sense. One of the concepts was, as Mr. Souza pointed out, that Homesteads at Lyelta, which is literally across the road and does have, at least in theory, a utility company. That is, they've got a corporate shell, they've got approvals from Alberta Environment, and they've got a solution. And one of the ideas was, well, fine, once Homesteads at Lyelta gets approved and gets going, that will add more customers, and it's actually got an Alberta Environment approved solution. Whether it's economic or not is another question. But for reasons that I still don't understand, this council appealed the approval of Homesteads at Lyelta, Phase 1, Stage 1, to the Municipal Government Board and fought it tooth and nail. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should have approved Homesteads at Lyelta because it was a potential solution for Muirfield. That would have been foolish. But every ground you fought it on, you lost in front of a panel that included Mary Axworthy, who was the #2 planner in the city of Calgary and understands planning and understands subdivision with great detail. You didn't win on a single point. I'm not sure what the battle was about. And what you did is you delayed Homesteads at Lyelta. And you seem to be under the impression that the answer to this problem, and it is a problem, is to halt everything where it stands. But have you thought about what's then going to happen? You got 135 people, and I'm not speaking for them. I don't have instructions from them. I'm not threatening you. I'm just pointing out the logical certainty that they will look for somebody to blame, and who are they going to blame? You guys. So you'll face 100 and some lawsuits for, I don't know, $500,000 each. I think actually you're probably past all the limitation periods, so I'm not sure how they're going to sue you, and I don't think they're going to be very successful, to be quite honest. But you're going to have to deal with that, and you're going to have to deal with 135 very angry ratepayers. That doesn't strike me as being a good solution. I honestly don't believe that holding the developers' toes to the fire is going to make them work any harder. They started as a mortgage holder, a lender. They weren't actually the developer, and they lent money. And I have no sympathy for them. That was a commercial risk that they took. And it went south. And they foreclosed and have taken it over. But I've got to say, from the perspective, and yes, they pay me and I represent them, that they haven't walked away, which is a little bit surprising to me, because if they were going to walk away, they should have done it sooner. But they've stayed at the table, fighting every inch of the way for a solution. And the thing that amazes me is that you and they are treating this as if you're adversaries. And you're not. You both have a common problem. You seem to think that the solution to the problem is to kill the baby. The consequences of that are going to be pretty hard to deal with. So I'm not suggesting I've got an answer, but I think what you need to do is sit down with this developer, this mortgage holder who's become a developer, and work together on a solution. I honestly don't think that cutting off development permits is the answer. And the reason I say that is simply because with a utility, the more customers you have, the more viable it is. You can look at it from the other side of saying, if it just keeps growing, it'll just get to be a bigger and bigger problem. I don't think that's the right answer, because I think the problem is already too big. I think killing it will be far too messy and far too ugly. But as I say, the thing I don't understand is why in the last 2 years that I've been involved, these have all been adversarial conversations. You've got a problem. They've got a problem. It's a problem you share. I don't think you're on opposite sides. But if you continue to treat it as in an adversarial manner, you're going to make a solution far more difficult, if not impossible. I've been doing this for 40 years, longer than I care to remember. You've got a really good lawyer in Ms. Clower giving you advice. I think what you need to do is put Ms. Clower and myself and somebody from your council and your staff and the developer in a room and say, don't come out until you guys have got a plan. But if you sit here throwing rocks at each other, I'll guarantee you the chances of this thing going down in flames are far greater than they are if you work together. And I really don't understand what you think you're going to gain by shutting it down, other than I'm going to guess, because I was consulted by the people on the other side, and I said, don't sue, work together with the municipality. Suing them isn't going to help. But at this point, if you shut the development down, who else are they going to point fingers at? You're the obvious target, and everybody knows you're heavily insured. So they're going to point their fingers at you. And that isn't going to be very helpful. There's the possible solution with Cataland. As I say, it's got Alberta Environment approval. It could be implemented. If the economics don't work, then I agree the developer and the county have got to sit down and say, okay, how do we make on-site servicing work? And if they're just starting now, I can tell you from experience, in order to get their Alberta Environment approvals, it's going to take them at least a year, and frankly, more likely 2 years. But in the meantime, if you guys don't issue development permits, Muirfield is going to die because every house out there is going to be worth nothing. So what I really think you need to do is sit down and say, how do we get out of this problem? Not how do we point fingers at the other guys? How do we put the fire at their feet? You've been doing that. That's not going to, it's not magic. That won't make it happen. So what you're really doing today is you're going to make a decision. Are you going to kill the development, or are you going to sit down and say, there's got to be a solution? I think what you should be doing, I honestly think this, not because it's good for the developer. I mean, I think it'll help them in the sense it'll help them come to a solution. I think you've got to sit down and say, this is our problem as well. We better own it. And we got to be part of the solution. And I really hope you take that approach. And I know it's been frustrating. But this developer was a mortgage holder. They're not to blame. They made a bad loan. That's what they did. A loan they're going to lose their ass on, probably. But they've stayed at the table, operating in good faith. I suspect hoping to recover the principal. But you guys are right when you say we're at risk. You are. When you're saying, I can't put my ratepayers' money at risk, you already have. And I don't mean you individually, I mean this council, this county. That decision was made a long time ago. And it didn't work out the way you planned. So I suggest you better find a solution. And I don't see you working with Mr. Souza, who I know is kind of fun to watch because he gets excited, waves his arms. But he really is, I've learned this, he really is a sincere guy. He's got all kinds of faults and problems, but he really is a sincere guy, and as best I can tell, he's an honest guy. And I think he's been honest with you the whole time, because everything I've heard him tell you, I know for a fact to be true. So you've got to learn to say, what are we going to do now? Are we going to just put an end to this thing and face what comes? Or are we going to say, you know what, we're part of the problem. We got to be part of the solution. And I'm sure there's a solution. With 135 customers, with homesteads at Lyelta, I mean, we've got phase 1, stage 1 approved. I'm not a marketing guy. I don't know how long it's going to take them. And I'll be very frank, I said to one of the builders in Muirfield, I said, frankly, why the hell would anybody want to live there? Now, I'm a city guy. I don't want to live out in the country. Have no ambition whatsoever to do that. But when I talked to the builder, he said, we can build for the people who are there their dream home for between $500,000 and $600,000. It's not a mansion, but it's a fairly big house, nice house on a golf course. And apparently, it's a really active community in the sense that people know and like each other and get to play baseball together in the summer and do things in the winter. I don't know what. There are people who want to live there. So there is a market. The fact that they keep asking for development permits tells you there's a market. Not a ginormous one, not one where people are pounding at the doors, but there's a steady stream of people coming and wanting development permits, all of whom are potential customers for your utility. But if, on the other hand, you take the position that this thing is just a problem that's getting bigger and you can't afford to let it get any bigger, then I suggest you stop everything right now and you give Ms. Clower instructions to defend all of the lawsuits that I'm sure are going to pile up at her door, and you give your insurer notification, and you batten the hatches and wait for the storm. But I can tell you there is going to be no good come of sitting and saying, let's dump all of this on the developer. And they didn't ask me to come out today and ask for your help. They did not do that. I have been thinking about this all week and saying, what am I going to tell these people? I said, the only thing I can do is be absolutely honest and tell them, based on my experience in the development industry for the last 40 years, one, you got a problem. Two, it's an ugly problem. And three, you need to sit down and work together to work it out. Or to make a final determination there is no solution and kill it. I think there's got to be a solution. And I don't think that you guys or the developer have sat down and really analyzed and said, can we fix this? Now, Mr. Sousa has explored all kinds of options, and it sounds like at this point that on-site wastewater treatment may be the best solution. But before you guys issue more permits, you should know how's that going to work and how can you help in that process. And before they waste more money running around looking for the solutions, they've got to know that you've got their backs. Because what we can't do is spend another $100-some thousand that we wasted in front of the Municipal Government Board on the other project, which is independent. But it was potentially part of the solution. And my other clients, and we've disclosed this in a cost claim, spent well over $100,000 on a hearing that you lost on every single issue. Why are you on opposite sides? That's the question I want to leave you with. I honestly think you've got to sit and say, this really is partly our problem. We need to be part of the solution. Or put an end to it and say, that's it, we're out of the game, we quit. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
No?
No?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I move that as information?
Sure can.
Thank you for coming. I will move that as council information.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Mr. Reeve, whenever and if council deems it appropriate, I have heard Mr. Ham make the same speech on multiple occasions, and there are certain factual issues that need to be clarified. And I would like the opportunity to do so, whether council would like me to speak now or you'd like me to speak in camera, it's up to you. But he keeps making consistent misrepresentations about the facts on both Muirfield and Homesteads, and this new council needs to understand what the reality is as you go forward.
Okay, thanks for that, Joanne. I was hoping at the end of the homesteads. Okay. Later today? Okay. And before Mr. Ham caught up, I should have went back to 3.3A. We had a request for decision on development permit 2017-147. That was to be right after the public hearing. Everyone remember that? Okay. We'll continue where we left off. We would need a motion. Alan?
Just wanted to say one thing in regards to the report. Colton, if you can go back to the recommendation, please. When I signed this, I agree with everything that's on that recommendation, including the sprinklers. Other homes in that subdivision have had sprinklers. That's the way that subdivision was set up. So I have a bit of concern taking that out. I understand what was said, but the original intent of that subdivision, because it is quite a ways away from a fire hall, they are to be sprinklered. So I just mentioned that.
Okay. Any questions to that? The sprinklers?
No, I'm glad Alan brought it up because I was going to bring up the same comment.
Okay. The purpose of the sprinklers in the rest of the subdivision, the houses are close together and that's a requirement of safety codes, Alberta, that they be sprinklered. And I'm thinking when the houses are further apart, maybe it, but in the same sense what Alan said, they're a long ways away from a fire department. So I don't believe we have a motion for this one way or the other. Or is there any questions left? Scott, you got your finger there? You want to push it all the way?
I'll make the motion that council approve option 1 for the development permit application DP 2017-147. And just another note, that is in cell 3 of the other item we were looking at.
Okay. With the conditions as listed?
Yes, with the conditions as listed.
And including the sprinkler system?
Yes, I believe we'll include the sprinkler system.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns? Any questions, Jimmy? Sure. Yeah, please.
Jimmy Souza, project manager, Lakes and Muirfield, Layout, Alberta. There's already a precedent set on Couts Close. There are 2 existing homes that do not have sprinkler systems. I actually worked with, when you guys used, was it Superior for the permits?
I believe.
No, it was actually Procon or some other company many years ago when this started, and we discussed this very issue. And he said, as long as there is a minimum of 15-foot setback in between the structures, you would not. And so I said, perfect, because we've got some. And he started saying, oh my goodness, how am I going to know when I come to this site? This one needs it, this one doesn't. And I said, very simply, the street is called Couts Close. Those are the only ones that do not require. Everything else in this development requires a sprinkler system. I'm just thinking about the cost to that sprinkler system to Amy and Adam, especially like I said, when there's already a precedent that's been set where there's 2 homes adjacent to theirs that didn't have that requirement. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks for that.
Through the chair, you said 15 feet. I think the application said 10 feet. So there's 10 feet between the houses, 15 feet doesn't fall in there, so.
10 and 10 is 20. 10 from the property sideline on this house, and then another 10 for the next house. That's 20 feet, Ben. Side yard setback.
I can spit that far. I'm sure.
Yeah, but you're an old farmer. You've been spitting seeds for many years.
Okay. Just so we're clear, the sprinkler system is a requirement of Alberta building codes in certain instances. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct in certain instances, and we spoke with the deputy fire chief yesterday on this matter of the sprinklers, and we looked for, because I had been under the impression that all of Murfield had to have sprinklers across every single cell. We looked into it, and there had been no bylaw adopted at that time by council in regards to sprinklering of all cells in Murfield. If there was a policy or bylaw in place that went above the fire code, we could then have those requirements in place. Spoke with the deputy fire chief, and due to the setbacks, we don't need to have the sprinklers in this particular aspect of part of Couts Close. However, if that's council's wishes, that's fine. It's up to council's decision here. But with the safety code, we can ask if the deputy fire chief wants to come and speak to that.
So, Mr. Chairman, that bylaw can be changed,
It
right?
can be changed, yeah. But as it is right now today, that's the way it is.
That's right. So the original intent, from what I understand, was to have sprinklers in the whole subdivision. I wasn't here, but, so that's not what you've got, just so you know.
I think for me, the original intent was there were sprinklers before I even knew there were sprinklers in it. That it was mandated upon them by the inspectors. That was a long time ago. But at any rate, is there any other questions, or? Do you want to listen to hear the deputy fire chief?
Just one question on the sprinklers. How much, do we know how much that adds to the cost of a house?
Please, please.
The last time this issue came up, it was roughly $2 per square foot. So in the case of Amy's house,
1684 times
yeah,
2, so it's like
roughly
$3,300 roughly.
Okay.
Amy will be still able to get fire insurance if she doesn't have sprinklers, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, there's already 2 homes on that street that have gotten that. Yeah. And I understand what you're saying, Alan, but it was not the entire community. It was always Couts Close was left out of that. Always, and you can look that up. Like I said, it was pro something.
That's the question I asked. So if that's the case, if Cole can confirm that, or Angie can confirm that, then you should not be asking for sprinklers then.
I think it's confirmed by the 2 homes that.
Okay.
Through the chair, I did a record search of the bylaws and of the minutes. I've obviously haven't been here since 2008, so I went back to 2008 to look at the minutes in terms of the sprinklers and wasn't able to find a council policy or bylaw speaking to sprinklers for the entire development. It seems to have been something that's just been done as how it is, and with fire code, it is required for all the other houses in Murfield. Couts Close is the exception to that rule. If council does want to have sprinklers in the entire development, including Couts Close, staff can prepare an RFD to that effect.
Okay. And if I remember right too, when they started out there, the houses had to be fire protected on the exterior, right? Or every other house ended up being fire protected with gyp rock because they were too close, but that wasn't a county requirement. That was a safety, Alberta safety codes.
There was, through the chair, there was also the issue that it was for every so many lots, they lost a lot because of, if they didn't put sprinklers in, they had to expand the distance between the houses.
Mm-hmm.
So they went with the sprinklers so that they could have more houses on more lots. Yeah. And if you're spending $400,000, $500,000 on a house, I don't think $3,000 is an exceptional amount to spend on safety, especially when you're half an hour away from an
Okay. Go ahead.
I just want to bring to council's attention that council cannot impose a higher requirement for sprinklers and fire code requirements than the fire code. The Court of Appeal has dealt with that issue specifically. So just keep that in mind as you move forward.
Okay. Everyone understand that statement?
I would ask Amber to make an amendment on the, oh, Scott. Sorry, you look like Amber. Yeah. I would ask Scott to make an amendment to take out the sprinkler system.
Yeah, which one's assaulted? Go ahead, Scott. Just amend it.
Okay, with the further information we've received, I would amend that we do not need sprinklers in this Couts Close at this particular development, DP 2007-147, as it goes higher standard than what Alberta Fire Code imposes.
Okay. Is there any other questions? In no way does that predetermine that the builder can put them in if they wish to. That's right. Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thanks for coming in.
Mr. Chairman, would council like administration or legal counsel to explain to you if there is a way to do that? So there is no way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Okay. Okay, we'll have a break. 5 minutes or? Down to 3:30, Planning and Development Department, 3.5, Homesteads of Lyelta subdivision update. Page 239. Colton, you got some words for us?
Yes, more words.
Okay.
Hopefully my battery won't die on me this time. Okay, so we'll do an update on the Homesteads of Lyelta subdivision conditions. This is a 6-month project update. My recommendation is that council receive this report as information and direct administration to provide an update in February 2018. So I'm just going to go through a bit of background on this. So on May 18th, the Municipal Government Board conditionally approved the Homesteads of Lyelta subdivision application, subject to 29 conditions needing to be met by the developer. These conditions range in complexity from straightforward requirements such as ensuring your taxes are paid to providing complex studies and technical requirements that need to be met for this to be a viable subdivision development. I'm just going to go through a summary of the 29 conditions that are still outstanding and have not been addressed since the May 18th decision by the MGB. The exact conditions and wordings can be found in the attached Municipal Government Board decision. So I'll just go through them here quickly. The first one that's outstanding is a final plan of survey. We need to incorporate changes to the MR layout need to be changed, as well as changes for road acquisition. And the final plan's also dependent on the findings of a biophysical impact assessment that's yet to be submitted to the county, which may require plan amendments. Taxes, off-site levies, and cost contributions. This has not yet been met, but it's typically reviewed at the end of the endorsement process, so we wouldn't expect it to, we wouldn't check on this one yet. This would be more at the end. Municipal reserve. The municipal reserve lands, this would also be provided at the time of endorsement when the subdivision is registered. The development agreement, this is still incomplete, so staff's been in multiple meetings with the developer regarding the development agreement prepared by our county lawyer, and we've yet to reach, so this was drafted in advance of later meeting where we have actually achieved consensus on the wording of the agreement. A development agreement is a significant, complex development that'll guide the future of this subdivision as it moves forward in terms of servicing, layout, securities for infrastructure, transportation, and etc. The DA is still in the very preliminary stages. We still would need to have quotes as to the cost of this construction, the construction of this infrastructure, because we'll be taking that as securities, 125%. We take the securities so we can make sure it's viable and constructed correctly, so we don't have situations where we have developments that don't have the full servicing available. So the DAL will incorporate elements such as water and wastewater, road upgrades, stormwater ponds, landscaping, fencing, sidewalks, street lining, signage, and temporary cul-de-sacs. An updated BIA will also need to be submitted to the county as per condition 4H of the development agreement. So the BIA fieldwork can only be completed in the spring or summer months. So the window for 2017 has passed if the requirements for the updated BIA have not been completed by the developer. So this may cause delays in the finalizing of the DA into mid next year if these BIA updates were not completed in the field this past growing season. Nothing's been submitted to staff in regards to this matter showing updates to the BIA. So the developer may have them. We haven't received them. But if they were not completed and done to a certain standard, then the DA is the earliest it could be completed is next year. No design, construction, or engineering drawings have yet been provided to the county that would be included as schedules within the development agreement. So these are also needing to be completed before the DA can be finalized, as they note the study requirements that need to be met that must be incorporated into the DA. So one example would be a landscape plan. We need to sign that. The county needs to have a landscape plan submitted. We would then sign off, and then we'd incorporate the value and cost of the trees and all the infrastructure into that development agreement. So there's a lot of outstanding studies that I'll go through later in this report that all tie back to the development agreement. The development agreement is the key, it's key for a subdivision. It needs to really be done well and incorporate everything for the development to be done right. So conditions 14, 15, 16, 20, 21, and 25 and 26 all need to be completed before the DA can be finalized, as they note study requirements. So the MGB conditionally approved this subdivision subject to the 29 conditions, all of which were requested by staff. So they agreed that all of these conditions are a requirement of this subdivision approval and need to be completed within the 1-year time frame that they provided.
What is the time frame?
So there's a 1 year from May 18th. If these conditions haven't been met by then, it would then come back to council for a determination if you'd like to extend the subdivision approval or refuse the subdivision.
So it's council's decision, not the MGB.
As I understand it, and legal can correct me, council's decision.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah. So based on staff's review that nothing has been submitted to the county to date, and there are a significant number of elements that remain outstanding for the development agreement, we're potentially predicting about 9 to 12 months before the development agreement could be finalized if those BIA items weren't completed in the previous growing season. So number 5, prior to endorsement of the approved plan of subdivision, all on-site infrastructure, including the potable water distribution system, wastewater collection system, the stormwater management system, roads, sidewalks, landscaping, fencing, lighting, and signage, along with all the related easements, right-of-ways, and restrictive covenants must be completed with their construction completion certificates. And 25% of the cost of the infrastructure, on-site infrastructure, must be posted as security in the form of cash or an irrevocable letter of credit for a guaranteed period of not less than 2 years. So this condition number 5 can't be finalized until the DA is finalized, so it's contingent on that. Number 6, it's a backsloping, it's construction to ensure access to the roadways. This is not a concern at this time. We'll work on that at a later date. The backsloping agreement, Public Works is currently preparing this, and it'll need to be signed prior to subdivision endorsement. Once again, this agreement is done at the back end. Once the major work that is tied to conditions is completed, then this backsloping agreement, we'd have the developer come in and they would sign that. Same with the road acquisition agreement. Public Works is still preparing this, so when the subdivision is nearing, all the other conditions have been met, we'd then have them sign the road acquisition agreement to obtain 5 meters of road right away. Condition number 9 imposed by the MGB, we need to see the franchise agreement for the utility corporation. We have not received a copy of the franchise agreement with respect to the provision of the sewer, potable water, and stormwater utility services by a service provider approved by Wheatland County. So that's still outstanding. Number 10, water servicing. Pipe potable water servicing shall be provided to the development by an approved service provider in accordance with the approved municipal servicing strategy study, and the owner shall provide written confirmation from the approved service provider to Wheatland County that they have an Alberta Environment and Parks licensed water system with sufficient capacity, as well as an agreement in place. Neither of these have yet been provided to the county to date. Staff has concerns with the proposed usage of the Murfield water treatment facilities in terms of storage Due to the fact that the WID canals are only able to be drawn from during April to October, we'd sent an email to the developer with these concerns. We haven't received any correspondence to date on how this plans to be addressed. So basically, we just want to make sure before this moves forward that future lots in Murfield aren't going to lose their ability for water. The capacity from the existing approved Murfield development is not impacted by homesteads tying to the Murfield treatment plant. We need confirmation of that. Number 11, the owner is to obtain approval and agreement from Wheatland County to allocate 140 acre feet of water to the homesteads development from the WID license, which is numbered here. So that is an existing license that the county has. Staff has been working internally with transportation and infrastructure, the land agent, and our general manager to draft an agreement with legal counsel to allocate water from the license, which has been provided. We still require information from the developer. As I noted, we just want to make sure that we're not taking water from Lake Summerfield's future phases. Number 12, piped wastewater servicing has to be provided to the development by the approved service provider in accordance with the approved municipal servicing strategy study, and the owner shall provide confirmation confirming licensing and that there's a servicing agreement in place. No information has been provided to the county yet in regards to this condition. Number 13, they have to have a municipal access agreement to allow private utility lines to be located within the county road right away. Once again, this condition will be noted and addressed at the end once the plans and aforementioned conditions have been completed to provide the relevant information. So, okay, I'm bunching a few conditions together. So conditions 14 to 16 all speak to stormwater management and the need to submit detailed plans, register necessary easements, and obtain necessary licenses from Alberta Environment and Parks. All of this info needs to go into the development agreement. None of the necessary information has been provided to the county to date. Number 17, utility right-of-way and access easement needs to be registered on any lots upon which there's a stormwater or evaporation pond located, which gives the county the right to access, maintain, and perform remedial work on the storm ponds to prevent or alleviate flooding. As we have no detailed stormwater information yet, this condition's not been met. Number 18, we need a management and operation plan for the stormwater and evaporation ponds. We don't have that information yet. Number 19, the owner needs to prepare and implement a solid waste management plan for the development. The plan should provide that the owner and or the homeowners associations responsible for the management of solid waste and recyclables. No information has been provided to the county yet in regards to a solid waste management plan. Condition 20 notes prior to commencement of construction of any improvements pursuant to the DA, the owner shall provide an update to the BIA in accordance with the September 28, 2016 McElhaney letter. As I said, we don't have any further information in regards to the BIA. 21 notes that in the event that the updated BIA indicates that improvements should be constructed to facilitate the protection of a wetland in phase 1, then the DA needs to include these recommended improvements. Once again, as we don't have the BA, we can't really move ahead on that. Approval from the province may also be required in regards to alteration of wetlands dependent on what that BIA says. So that brings another layer into it where it may have to go to the province, wait on their approvals, and that'll also have to be incorporated into the development agreement. Number 22, utility easements, agreements, and plans, including but not limited to water, wastewater, storm, electricity, cable, and natural gas, need to be registered and provided to the reasonable satisfaction of the utility provider in Wheatland County. We don't yet have any information in regards to this condition. Conditions 23 and 24 speak to architectural control guidelines that must be provided to the county and comply with the ASP. We don't yet have any information submitted in regards to architectural controls for the homestead subdivision. Condition 25 notes the landowner must prepare and implement a landscaping plan in accordance with the ASP for roadways, pathways, MR parcels, and public utility lots to the reasonable satisfaction of the county. No landscape plans have been submitted to date, so this info is required for determining securities and schedules into the DA for landscaping. Condition 26 notes that the landowner is to prepare and provide a construction management plan that notes how the developer plans to minimize and control noise, sedimentation, and erosion, dust, drainage, firefighting procedures, the evacuation plan, hazardous material containment, and other construction management details. Other major requirements that the county likes to see is weed management during construction phases of the project, as well as the management and mitigation of environmentally significant features as identified by the approved BIA, including the updated BIA referenced in condition 19. This information has not yet been provided to the county. Condition 27 of the MGB decision notes that the owner shall establish a homeowners association in accordance with the Societies Act to handle matters determined in the development agreement, such as open space and park maintenance and solid waste disposal for the development. All corporate structure documents, agreements and restrictions, financial encumbrances are to be provided to the reasonable satisfaction of the county. It requires each individual lot owner to pay a monthly, quarterly, or annual rent charge to cover the cost of the maintenance and other services, as is typical with homeowners associations. So this is incomplete still. Condition 28 speaks to the condition that the owner shall prepare and provide a plan for the development showing all the proposed road names to the satisfaction of the county. That's still outstanding. And then condition 29, so this is at the very end. Once all the other conditions are met, they'll pay the endorsement fee for the creation of the 136 lots. So that'll be calculated dependent on the fee schedule in place at the time that this subdivision has all of its conditions met. So a bit of a summary, none of the conditions of subdivision approval have been met for this subdivision application that received conditional MGB approval on May 18th of 2017. As per the MGB decision, the decision is valid for a period of 1 year from the date of this order. Under section 657(4) of the Act, if the plan of subdivision or other instruments not submitted to the subdivision authority within the time prescribed by that section or any longer period authorized by council, the subdivision approval is void. Staff is recommending that an additional update be provided to council in February 2018, as that will be 3 months prior to the conditional subdivision approval being void, unless the developer requests an extension through county council, at which time it'd be your decision as to whether you want to move forward with this development or not. So in my next report, I've just started a condition tracking matrix. So I'll update this in February if any conditions have been addressed, and then have that date in place. In terms of relevant policy to the report, we have the regional growth strategy, the municipal development plan, and the homesteads area structure plan, and then of course the municipal government board order. The implications of recommendation, just increased communication between our planning department and council as to the status of the developer meeting the conditions of their subdivision approval, and increased accountability to county ratepayers as to the status of a major development project within the county. Follow up. So if the recommendation is approved by council, I'll provide an update in February of 2018. So I'll just go back up to my recommendation and conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colton. Any questions? A motion to accept? Donna, accept his information and an update in February?
Accept homestead, the report as information and direct administrative to provide an update in February 2018.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Colton. At 4 o'clock, back on schedule. Bill, you're here for representing Homesteads of La Alta. Your turn. Turn the mic on, please. Okay, thank you.
The button. I didn't prepare anything. I came here to answer questions or to give you an update.
Okay.
That's where we are. We're waiting for the development agreement. All the other items that are there we can address by February if we get that development agreement. The BIA, he did the field work during the summer, so that's done. We're waiting for the report from him. We haven't been sitting around doing nothing. We have a utility company that we're in the final stages with. We should have that done before Christmas. And the agreements and everything that we've been listed, we have to wait until we have those items finalized so that we can put in the proper information for review. The subdivision itself is probably spring, summer construction, again, approvals. We had the sewer system approved by Alberta Environment, we still do, for a lagoon process, but in discussions with Mr. Zier and Mr. Colton, we are approaching Alberta Environment to do an on-site. So we wouldn't need to do the lagoon, we'd do a tertiary treatment plant on site and underground disposal, which is acceptable. They have approved systems like that. Mr. Zier seemed happy about that for whatever reason. It's just a different treatment process. So the funding is the key for us right now to trigger. Once we have the development agreement, we can do a lot of these issues are related to that. And we do know the MGB's conditions. And our intention is not to come back for an extension unless there's something that we are not aware of right now.
So you're thinking you can get it done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have been working on the sewer. It's, we have the company that will do the sewer, we have the pricing, we have the areas that we need. The other thing that we have had to work on, just so you know, some of the delay on our side has been, we have 2 estates that are partners in the group. And we've been advised, and we're in the process, actually, it could be done today, the final signing of an agreement between the estates and us to proceed.
Okay. So you're aware that it takes a considerable length of time to get environment approvals on?
Yes. Yeah, we've already had discussions with Greg at Alberta Environment.
Okay.
On the treatment process. The treatment process we're talking about is not new. It's they already have approved systems identical to it in Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, if we built the lagoon and then we went to expand it, we would go to the next level of treatment. It wouldn't be a lagoon. We're going to that next level because Muirfield has 800 and some units and we have 2,400 approved.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other questions? Ben?
So, excuse me, through the chair, you're not going to use the line to Catalan then?
Not if we don't have to. We've talked with Karen and Joe, and that system's still approved by Alberta Environment, and I guess that's our fallback now. We're trying to improve that.
And that's the one that you're going to share with Muirfield if it works?
Yes, it doesn't, not if it works, when it's built.
So if it works, how many pivots are they looking at running out of Catalan?
I don't know. Catalan wouldn't be involved.
Line that goes there right now that you're talking about?
There's no line in the ground.
Not yet.
Yeah, it wouldn't be going in.
So
It's a different,
that's
treatment.
Out of the concept altogether.
Yeah.
So you're not using any pivot, you're doing underground.
If we can't find, it's called drip irrigation. I call it drip irrigation, but it's disposing of it, injecting it into about a foot below ground, below the crop level, is what Alberta Environment approves.
So how many residents will that allow on the line?
All of them.
All 32?
It's not a line, Ben. It's
It's a
on site.
Field system basically.
It's like a field system, yes. That's how you can relate.
And it's on that 680 acres?
Yes.
And that's enough for the 3,200
We
single family?
don't need anywhere near that. We have a groundwater specialist and a Niagara specialist and ready to give us that information, but the best guess is 40 acres. About 40 acres at build-out that would be needed.
And it's something that can be added on as needed, I'm sure.
Yeah, the plant would come, the first phase, we're looking at 400 to 800 lots, 400 to 600, and then you add another treatment process to it. The end result to this is UV treatment. You can put UV treatment right on this plant.
Okay.
So it's recreational quality water.
So then when Jimmy was up here before and he said that you guys were meeting unless I'm misunderstanding this, that by the end of this month, part of the solution that he's looking at Muirfield would be tying into that system that you're
Yes.
talking about.
Yep.
That would handle all of theirs and all of yours?
All of their present, and then you add to the extension of the system as needed.
Interesting.
The whole Lyalta, as we know it right now, we have to allow for. We have to make sure that we can deal with it. And that's why we have these other specialists, and that's why environment is involved, and they review these things and tell us what they expect.
Okay.
And one of them was a groundwater specialist and an ag specialist that we had to hire, and we've had the interviews with both of them.
Well, get it right.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You get it right up front.
So you're looking for a different approval then from Alberta Environment and Parks?
Yes.
Completely different idea? You
Uh,
can't
no.
amend the existing approval to do?
I don't know that
Yeah.
until we make the application. It could be an amendment.
Yeah.
Because we have approval for treatment for the project. But I don't know. I can't speak for environment.
Okay.
We'd find that out.
So Jimmy was very optimistic about this. Are you guys in the same sense?
Yes, we are.
And do you guys have a time frame? Any idea?
Well, the funding guy, who is a partner of ours, is in Mexico until the end of this week. And he's telling us that within a couple of weeks, we should have the monies to proceed with the design and submission to Alberta Environment. And that was our goal, is to have it in there this year, be under construction throughout the winter if we can get the approval through Alberta Environment quick enough. Some parts, we won't be able to do all the construction, finish it off in the spring.
Any other questions? No questions? Thanks for coming in, Bill.
Congratulations to all. This is the first time I've been in here on your election, and look forward to meeting with you on a regular basis as we get things sorted out here.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Mover for information, Tom? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask our lawyer, Joanne, do you have any comments?
I have many comments. The
And
question,
and just not to interrupt you, but if this is recorded, could we send a copy of it to Hugh Ham, because he slipped out before he could hear what she was going to say? A little bit chicken.
but I think the question is, if council wants to do this, it's legal advice. Do you want to go in camera, or do you want to have this in public? It's up to you.
I'll leave it up to you, Joanne, because you know what should be in camera and not. Right after you're done, we've got a couple little issues, and then we can go in camera if there are issues that should be in camera. Okay, is that fair enough? I
Well,
don't like to have too much in camera when stuff
I
could be out.
appreciate that. My issue would be that I am going to be providing you with legal advice that includes Mr. Ham's threats of litigation. I don't want councillors to feel in any way fettered with respect to asking me questions. So again, it's your solicitor-client privilege to waive or not. That's my hesitation in doing it publicly, but, well, not hesitation, those are my think about it comments for council. And at the end of the day, it's your call.
Is council comfortable with having our lawyer make some comments? And if we have questions, we'll hold off with them until we're in camera to fulfill both sides of the equation? If we're all comfortable with that, we would carry on.
I think in respect for our legal, I think any suggestions that she is making for council can be made in camera, but the comments can sure as heck be made out of camera.
Yeah. Okay. If everyone's fine with that, we'll continue on.
My comments are going to address Mr. Ham's comments both with respect to Muirfield and with respect to homesteads. because I have watched video where he's come into this council chambers and he has made blatant misrepresentations, and I saw it in person today, and it absolutely makes my blood boil because it's unfair, and I think it is used in a fashion to intimidate this council. So first, with respect to Muirfield, and I'm also going to speak with respect to Rocky View, simply because, and I'm not speaking out of school, this is all public knowledge, but again, because this is new councillors, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on the water under the bridge, but it's important, I think, for you to have some background, because these are recurring issues, and I think to have some context. And also, just for your information, I had originally done an opinion on Muirfield dated April 13th, 2015, which Mr. Parkin will have a copy of if anyone would like to view it. And that also sets out some of the history with respect to Muirfield. So it's when Muirfield was first approved by the county back in 2007 for phase 2, it was on the basis that Rocky View County would provide wastewater utility servicing. And in fact, this council passed a resolution authorizing Rocky View to provide that servicing to Muirfield because it's located within Wheatland County. And the concept at that time was a two-phase pipe. Phase 1, which was built and which was the phase that Muirfield contributed to, was built to the current holding tank, which was intended to be a lift station at Lyalta. The phase 2 pipe, which was the magical part, never happened. That was to take it down to Langdon wastewater treatment plant. And of course, we all know what happened to development in the mid to late 2000s is it all went pear-shaped. And so the anticipated development, both within Rocky View County and the rate of development in Muirfield, didn't happen. And it simply made it economically unfeasible for that pipe to get built, so it didn't. So what was intended to be an interim trucking scenario for Rocky View turned into a long-term commitment. And they were losing $250,000 a year subsidizing wastewater servicing in Wheatland County, which didn't go over very well with their ratepayers. And so unlike what Mr. Ham said, that Rocky View somehow unilaterally terminated the agreement, that's not what happened. The developer, 074 developer and Rocky View came together and did because I drafted the agreement, they did a mutual termination agreement that looked forward to where Muirfield was going to do its own wastewater treatment system, much as what Mr. Mayor described today, actually. And Rocky View was going to continue to do the wastewater hauling, but on an actual cost recovery basis. So that's what happened. That, I understand, is what is continuing to happen with Muirfield. Now, with respect to the other issue that I just want to touch on, with respect to what happened with that DC bylaw back in 2015, and this is where the residents of Muirfield were putting a lot of pressure on the county and on council specifically to deal with this ongoing wastewater trucking solution because it's pretty expensive. And this is where we looked at what tools are available. And the development agreement, there's no tool there because they built the infrastructure as was contemplated in both the 2005 and 2007 development agreements on site. It was approved with respect to servicing being provided by Rocky View County, and Rocky View County was providing the service. It wasn't the way everyone envisioned it would roll, but that's what it was approved upon. And so one of the things that we looked at, and keep in mind it was important that two of these elements work, is one is shifting the single-family residence from permitted to discretionary use, but then the magic was that there was a servicing standard built into that DC bylaw that said that for discretionary uses to be approved, there had to be a permanent wastewater servicing solution, whether that was to a lagoon or pipe servicing. And then, of course, the developer went and had more conversations with the residents, and everyone backed off of this, and very much what you heard today, then everyone thought, oh, this isn't going to work for us because it's going to slow down development, which will, in the end of the day, not help. And that's when council backed off. And that's where they took out that wording with respect to the development standard with respect to permanent wastewater servicing being a condition of discretionary use, but you left in the discretionary use, which there's just a miss. They either go together or you abandon all hope. So that is Muirfield and where you are today. Now, tied into Muirfield has always been homesteads, because the promise has been, well, we approve homesteads, and then you're going to have, the necessary number of customers to make this wastewater solution a viable deal, whether it's through a pipe to Catalans and lagoon system, or now what you're hearing again is this on-site treatment, whatever. But again, I don't disagree that the more people you have paying into the system, that's what makes it economically viable, which means pipe systems in rural areas are really tricky. However, what I take issue with Mr. Ham and homesteads is his continual attack on the county and on county staff and how they handled homesteads. Firstly, the county did not appeal the homestead subdivision to the Municipal Government Board. Mr. Ham's client took a deemed refusal. The problem with homesteads is after 18 months, 2 years, whatever the magic number was, is they didn't have all the information submitted to support the subdivision application. Their geotechnical study was out of date. They didn't have an up-to-date servicing study. They didn't have stormwater management plan complete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, the developer just said, we're going to take a deemed refusal, which means you haven't given us a decision within a time frame, which allows us to automatically go up to the Municipal Government Board. We had a preliminary hearing in July of 2016. And at that point in time, the county, I had filed submissions saying this application remains incomplete because the developer has not provided sufficient information for the application, so you can't have a deemed refusal. But then we had discussions with county staff and said, at the end of the day, we're probably going to end up at the MGB anyway. Why don't we just move ahead? We'll abandon the jurisdictional argument and we'll move ahead so we can get some decent conditions in place and get this thing moving. Now, what's important is that Mr. Ham admitted on the record at the preliminary hearing in July that his client had not provided sufficient information to allow either Wheatland County or the MGB to make a decision on subdivision. So that is very key. This isn't just Wheatland County delay, delay, delay. This is insufficient information admitted by Mr. Ham on the record in front of the MGB. So do not accept ever that this mess was caused by Wheatland County. So then we agreed on timelines where Mr. Ham's client had to put forward the engineering reports. And then your consultant is McElhaney. They provided peer review, and then those reports had to get finalized. So that's how it rolled. And it was probably the best way for it to roll, is that everyone was set timelines. It was very clear what had to be provided, and that's what happened. Then if you would like to ever, if you have nothing better to do, you can go onto the Municipal Government Board website and you can pull MGB Order 022-17 to actually get the MGB decision. Because Mr. Ham's assertion that you lost on every issue is wrong. It's just blatantly a misrepresentation of fact. Now, in fairness, the planner at the time did take the position that the subdivision application was offside the current MDP, which it was. But council passed the ASP, council passed the DC bylaw. The MGB said, look, council has supported this and we're going to allow it to go ahead. So fair ball. However, what's important to keep in mind is that while your planner did argue that it was inconsistent with your MDP, the MGB allowed it to go ahead. The conditions, those are the conditions I drafted. Mr. Ham argued that his client shouldn't have to post security. Mr. Ham argued that the Wheatland County shouldn't have the authority to issue construction completion certificates or final acceptance certificates. He argued that you shouldn't be allowed to require a development agreement. The MGB did not agree with him on any of those points. And so you now have those set of conditions where they're having to post security for the off-site infrastructure. You're not going to endorse a plan of subdivision until they complete the on-site infrastructure, and then you're taking 25% security for the warranty period. You're entering into a development agreement. You're issuing the CCCs and FACs. That's what we spent a great deal of time arguing about, is these basic concepts of how to get a development done properly. So do not ever allow Mr. Ham to come here and say that Wheatland County argued a bad argument in front of the MGB and you lost on all points. Do not allow him to come here and say that Wheatland County cost their ratepayers money unnecessarily. There's a lot of room for negotiation and agreement, and it didn't happen because of some of these positions that are being taken on the developer side that would have effectively given them free rein to do this infrastructure without any checks and balances on the part of the county. So I think subject to questions, that is about my comments. Oh, I guess my last comment would be, is that the developers had this approval in hand since May. And we've seen today where they're at on satisfying their conditions. And clearly, Wheatland County has not been throwing up obstacles, preventing them from getting their BIA completed and that nature of thing. So again, Mr. Ham likes to come in here and throw a lot of stones and then turn around and accuse the county of being the stone thrower. Don't let him do it. Check your facts. Those are my submissions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just leave that go for now, and we'll go back to the agenda. 2.2G. Amber, you had an addition to the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've had some correspondence from one resident, and then she has indicated that there's a few other residents that support her position. She has some concerns about a residence in Nemeka. Some of the concerns are to do with safety. Some of them are to do with our nuisance and unsightly property bylaw. This is the bylaw coming around. It looks like these issues have certainly been in council before, dating back until July 2014, and the issue was present prior to that, but it wasn't owned as a residence at that point. It was just like, it's our old community center is what it is, but now somebody's living in it. It looks like there's a potential infringement onto the road right-of-ways. There's some zoning and building code infringements and possibly land use and infrastructure bylaw issues. So I just wanted to bring that to council as information.
Okay. Thanks for that. Does council or staff have any comments on that? Or? Okay. Is there any questions? Or where are we at in the process? Jeff, please. Oh, the mic's already on for you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So back, as Councillor Link was mentioning, back in 2014, it came to our attention of a new property owner that came to that location and began doing some renovations on the property. When our protective services department was brought into it, it came to us as a nuisance unsightly property with the amount of materials that were coming onto the property. We did have our safety codes officer arranged to have a safety codes inspection, I believe it would be called, and went through the building itself, briefly internally and externally, and that inspection came back clear. We pursued through our nuisance unsightly bylaw and ended up issuing a violation to the property owner. Oh, yep. So we did end up issuing a violation under our nuisance unsightly bylaw through the courts to this property owner to address the garbage that was there, that he couldn't really articulate it being used for renovation purposes. We wanted the lot cleaned up, and that can look, it can take on many different ways. You can sit there and arrange your property so that things are stacked neatly, but you still have copious amount of material. There's really no clear definition on what that meant at the time. So there was some garbage that was there that we were hoping to have cleaned up, broken windows, that sort of thing, metal materials that didn't seem to really have a purpose in renovating the property at the time. Our conviction was successful by 2017 in the courts. The person that's owning the property has proclaimed himself as a freeman on the land, if you're familiar with that term at all. So it has been difficult. He's been using the system more or less to postpone the process. The conviction did stand, and the fine was supported through the courts. The direction through the courts as well to our department and to the county was that as long as the property owner had built a fence that surrounded the property, that would satisfy the nuisance unsightly issue. Now, there was no clear definition on what that fence had to look like, and I believe there's parameters under the land use bylaw as well on how you can construct a fence within a hamlet. I don't have that offhand, but someone else, Colton, might be able to speak to that, I'm not sure. That's where we left that issue. If there's still any outstanding nuisance, unsafe conditions of the property, we would have to go back and have the property reassessed, re-inspected. And that's a process in itself. We have to make sure we're doing that safely because of the known conditions of the person and the property now. So that's going to involve our agency as well as our local police, I suspect. Our department is also facilitating with the land use department or the community development department and transportation infrastructure regarding these other matters, be it building permits or infringements onto right-of-ways. That's where we're at right now.
Okay. Amber?
So what is needed to have, for example, another safety codes inspection done?
I'm not familiar with the process myself on having the safety codes inspector come back again. That would be through the safety codes officer to arrange that. But we are going to be meeting actually this Friday afternoon and figuring out that game plan.
I just think listening to the residents and the scope of the risk at this residence, I think we as a council and administration need to do what we can in this situation from a safety perspective, like on top of our bylaw. And I am curious to hear what constitutes a fence under our land use bylaw, because this would seem to be a pretty loose interpretation of a fence.
Through the chair, I can go grab the land use bylaw and speak specifically to the requirements of a fence. Unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, in the land use bylaw, we didn't specifically break down exactly the kind of fence people need to have in a hamlet, because on the flip side, that could be seen as incredibly restrictive and onerous for the 99% of people that take care of their property and just want to put up a simple fence and don't want to have a million regulations put on them as to the type of fence. So I'm fairly certain that our land use bylaw wouldn't go to the level that would be needed with keeping this kind of property screened in terms of fencing. If council wanted to see that level of regulation on our fencing, there would be land use bylaw amendments. However, we would see there. I think that was a discussion to the public hearings. There would be some opposition to getting too specific with the fences, but it could be a discussion for sure.
Through the chair, can we issue individual decrees?
How do you mean?
Well, we have an individual, and he needs his property screened, that can we lay out what the screening is going to be, like, and not just have it.
Go ahead, Joanne. I'm glad you're here.
I do know the history because your constable sent me this file, and I appreciate that there was a ticket issued, and I appreciate that there was a fine. There's nothing that prevents, however, the county from going back and issuing, instead of going the ticket route, you can issue a remedial order pursuant to your nuisance and unsightly property bylaw. That may be specific on what that fence looks like if we're going to go with screening, because it was funny when I looked at the picture, I just saw a massive mess, and I thought, oh my goodness, we just need to go in there and get a remedial order and get this place cleaned up. And I will also say that sometimes, I mean, we've got a freeman on the land, which has an entire scope of special considerations. Justice Rook of the Alberta Queen's Bench, in a decision called Meads and Meads, set out an entire decree of how courts and municipalities are to deal and police are to deal with freemen on the land. It's very detailed, and I tried to send a link. I don't know if it made it through. But in any event, I mean, beyond the fact that you have to be careful about dealing with property when you're dealing with freemen on the land, there's nothing that's going to prevent the county from issuing a remedial order that requires specific steps to be taken to screen the property or clean the property up pursuant to your nuisance and unsightly property bylaw. And following that is there's a right of appeal to council for review. Then the next step, I think, would be going to the Court of Queen's Bench. And there's a bit of a difference between going to the Court of Queen's Bench and going to provincial court. Provincial court judges hear all sorts of things. They deal with some pretty violent crimes, and they deal with things that are much bigger in their minds than unsightly premises. I tend to find I get more of a audience from a Court of Queen's Bench justice who just kind of have had it, because it's typically kind of the last option available to the municipality, especially if we've got a good file documented and we've got pictures. The Court of Queen's Bench justices just love pictures, and they will give you an injunction order pursuant to Section 554 of the Municipal Government Act, which will, A, direct the person, the property owner, to take certain steps to bring the property into compliance with your bylaw. It will authorize the county without further order to go in and do the work itself, and importantly, it will direct the RCMP to assist upon request. And the other thing too is that the costs, we are typically able to get full cost recovery, which can then be added to the tax roll of the property and collected like property taxes. It forms a special lien. So that's something that if the county administration, after they have their meeting, decides they want to look further into going down that further enforcement route, it is an available option. It's going to take time. I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, just so you're aware, because of the Supreme Court saying that criminal trials have to be dealt with in 3 years, the criminal courts are taking civil court time to get a lot of this backlog dealt with. Our justices are sitting on their own time to deal with family law matters, which means that these kind of matters are not high on the priority list. It takes us 18 months to get on if it's going to take longer than 15 minutes to deal with. And with this kind of a person, I'm going to anticipate it might get a little hairy. So you need to understand that time, it may take time, which is going to be frustrating for your residents.
What other option do we have?
Not much.
That's right.
I mean, the safety codes officer has options as well, but again, it's still going to take time in order to work through that process, and that is really about building code and safety code issues. That's not about cleaning up the lot and keeping it clean, because the other benefit I find with an injunction order is you've got a contempt of court argument if they go offside that order. So at the end of the day, it's an effective remedy, but it can take some time to get there.
Okay, so in moving forward, can staff just continue on and approach the Queen's Bench, or do we need a motion in council to proceed?
I would say that this is something that's fully within the authority of Mr. Parkin as your CAO. This is an administrative function. This isn't a policy function for council.
Okay. Does that answer all your questions, Amber? Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
I really do appreciate just the explanation from your perspective and from legal counsel. Thank you.
Okay. We'll wait for it to get cleaned up. Hope we're still here. Okay.
We'll work on it.
Okay, Ben, you had a AAMDNC request?
Just a request for, what the hell did I call it? Permission to attend. After my talk to the minister on the floor about the ambulance service in Drum, I had a 4.9 minute presentation I had written up at home, and I phoned our zone director, and they said, you only get a minute with the minister, so I broke it down to try and get in as much as I could. After I talked to her aide, she came down and talked to me. She wanted more information, so I emailed her the full document that I was going to present. They're going to look into that. She got back to me and said she's going to look into that, and she may set up a meeting. So I got thinking, oh man, okay, I love the idea, but so I stopped in yesterday. I phoned the mayor of Drumheller and stopped in and talked to her. She's going to the AUMA this weekend, so I talked to her for half an hour, filled her in on it, because they were the biggest area within that ambulance service area of 8,000 residents, and the outlying area was 2,000, and the penitentiary had between 700 and 800 residents. So she's going to take it and see if she can get somewhere with them. She's going to talk to the same people that I talked to down there. One of them's a staff member, one is a fire chief down in Drum. Fire chief has no problem putting his name out there. But the staff member has an issue with it because it could cost him his job, so he doesn't want his name out. But she knows who he is, and she's going to sit and chat with him so that she can get the details that she's familiar with or comfortable with. And I asked her if she would take the lead, because I said, I don't have any authority to do that. I said, you have more authority because it's within your area. So hopefully she's going to take the lead. So she's asked me if the minister gets a hold of me and sets something up, if I would let her know. And I said, not a problem. I let her know. And since then, up in Edmonton, the Reeve of Starland came to me and said, if you get something set up, I want to be part of it. Because they were one of the members of the association at that time. So my request is just if there is some meeting set up there, would council allow me to sit in as a representative for those members out in the northeast portion of the county that are serviced by that ambulance, or just leave it up to for them to look after it.
Okay, does everyone understand the request? I'll make that motion that Ben be allowed. Is there any questions?
And just to that motion, the reason, and the mayor had asked if I would attend because of my history with the ambulance board and the transition and everything that happened in that process. So.
No, it makes sense to me. Ben spent a lot of time. Is there any questions? All in favor? Carried. Ben, as a recommendation, talk to Rob Whitty, Operations Director. He has to provide backup at times, and sometimes it's in that area. He can provide you with numbers and times and dates and duration and just how that process works. We're not the happiest campers either over here, but I think since we retained the ownership, we're a little bit more control, but not a lot. So just do look him up. He'll be a good. Okay.
Was it like the Starline that we pretended to be?
Okay. I got a request from the lodge in Strathmore for birthday of the month. And what that is an outfit, an organization go into the lodge for an afternoon and help them celebrate birthday of the month. And you can bring in a cake. I think Strathmore Council played bingo. You can games, whatever. And I'm just wondering if you're interested in doing that, because they have a time for us if we're interested. Wednesday afternoon, December the 13th from 2 to 4. That be something this Wheatland County Council would be interested in going and doing. Birthday of the month, they call it. Organizations go in and, like the Lions Club or Strathmore Council's been in, helping them, whatever, play bingo or sing songs. I know we can sing, play music, Christmas carols. We can get somebody to come in and sing, whatever the county would like to do. It's kind of wide open. We'd have to bring in a cake. The lodge would supply glasses and cutlery and all that kind of stuff, but yeah. Any discussion?
We have a Bow River Basin Council forum in Cochrane that day, so some of us won't be able to make it.
Okay. The rest that aren't, Ben?
Is this something that they're going to do on a regular basis, or is this a one-off, or what is this?
I'm thinking if it's successful, they probably want to do it a lot. Okay.
I think it is a great idea because my grandma was in there for a long time and they're always looking for things to do. And as a young person, I want to be in there with the seniors as much as possible. I would love to see it be a regular thing. I just can't make the first one.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to say? Tom?
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I think us council members should pony up for the cake, so it doesn't cost our taxpayers anything. So,
Okay.
Well, if I was going to do it, I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's a bad idea. The problem is we service 2 regions as far as seniors housing goes. And there's a huge majority of ratepayers in the east end that go into the Drumheller area and some into the Bazzano area. So if it's something that we're going to promote, I don't know, maybe we should talk to the other FCSSs or whatever it is on the partners on the side and see if they're looking at doing something along the same lines. So we don't look like we're, you know, where
Being
I'm coming
playing
from.
favorites? Yeah. Far as I know, this is the first time I've heard a birthday of the month club. As far as Drumheller and Bazzano having one, I haven't heard, Ben, or if they ask council at the time they want to do something, consider it at the time, I'm sure. Amber?
I'd volunteer to get the cake. I don't bake, but I go to Costco really well.
Okay. How many would go? I don't think we need a motion, but how many would go? Okay. So there's enough of us to go. I'll phone her back, tell her we can go. Amber will get the cake. What are we going to do?
They love floor curling. They love floor curling. Just saying. They love floor curling. Like
Yeah.
it'll entertain them for hours. I've done it.
Yeah, okay. So
You know,
Amber,
if it was me, and I haven't got time to go to that
Okay.
one, but if it was
just
me.
get a hold of Vicky
if
or
it-
Janice Peterson, one or the other. And you can ask them maybe too what they would expect, any ideas for entertainment.
So through the chair, my suggestion would be, and I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but if we're doing it, I don't like Costco cake. I don't like Dairy Queen ice cream. I don't like, if you're going to do it, find somebody to bake them a cake, put something personal in it. I know one resident that would probably do it for you. I'd ask the Reeve to phone our past Deputy Reeve, Shirley Reinhardt, and ask her to do it. She was in the lodge for how many years as their administrator, and she would probably personalize it like you wouldn't believe.
Bring her along to serve it too.
Taking over that job.
Yeah. I can phone Shirley.
You want me to read all this stuff, or do you want me to bake?
Yeah, we changed our mind. It's baking this month.
If you can't find somebody, get your cost.
Okay. I'll phone Shirley.
Costco will put a name on it. It's
Okay.
not bad cake.
Okay. So that's okay. December 13th, 2 to 4. We'll see you at the lodge. Okay. Oh yeah. Got an invitation for lunch on Friday afternoon. The Mayor of Calgary. A pre-Calgary, what do you call it? Do you want me to go? It's far. I know why it's Friday, because it's AUMA and it's the end of their conference. And he says, come over for lunch. But for me to go, that's a special day, and I can wait till next year till the board is formed. Or do you think it's something we should go to? I don't know all the mayors there. I know for sure there's one new at Chestermere, but that can always wait. Growth Management Board. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I would think, because we're all new and there's a lot of new people all over the place, I don't think it's a bad idea. Just go in with an open mind and see where it is. It's just better to say yes than say no.
I don't know if anything will be discussed on the growth board. It'll be just a networking deal, yeah. Does anybody have a problem if I go, if I decide to, if it's storming out or something? I got barley to haul too. Okay, we'll leave it go at that. Okay. I think we got the agenda done, except they're in camera. Oh, correspondence. And to bring it back there, we had the NAP group in here, and we have Joanne still here, and the CRAS thing. We had them two presentations. What are we going to do about Neighbors Against Pollution? Do you have any comments on that, Joanne? Okay, we'll go on camera. And the CRAS? And I'll leave the CRAS to do after we deal with the Neighbors Against Pollution. That sound fair? So we got correspondence left. Okay. Is there any actions out of any of them? That's where the Rosebud letter was. And a good read of George Cuffs for sure. Okay, if there's no questions, all in favor? Carried. Now we can go on camera. I need a motion.
I make a motion that we go into camera at 4:47 p.m.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.